and or watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksiyonlar gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve gol!
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast, episode 345 for the recap of the 2024-25 season. Sunday became Friday because apparently it was Father's Day on Sunday, and then we couldn't quite figure out when to do it. So it turns out we were a little later than expected. It's Friday. Fortunately, nothing big happened in the meantime. We did our transfer episode last week Friday, and now a week later you have a new live show. It's the first live show in a while. I'm going to welcome both my co-hosts here. Now let's introduce first my co-host since 2018, Mr. Sinan Schwarting from New York City. Sinan, how are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Summer's here. A bit of a summer break vibe for all of us. You can all see I've got a new kit on. Ooh, look, you can even see the patterns in the light, sort of.
It's insane, Sinan. These shirts came out on, what was it, the 13th, I think? So
yeah.
1 week on exactly, you already, like you're in New York City and you already have the shirts, and you've had them for a couple of days already, courtesy of the guys at carteljuvac.eu.
Not only that, they had time to give me a name on the back and everything, man.
Yeah.
I got the works.
Looks
I
great.
got the works.
Looks great. I got bad news for you though, Sinan, because there's this online campaign. Fans are protesting the Arial font. And I know that font that's on your back isn't Arial, but we have to wonder, will they stick to this font if Arial is finally out of the picture? Because I don't know if you know, but the Turkish Football Federation, one of the many stupid rules they have is that all clubs need to use the same font on the back of their shirts. That's why the font in the league is Arial, and in Europe we have the font you have on your back right now. So hopefully...
Yeah, we had the two. I was wondering what that was about, because like last year I got, my shirt straight from the stadium. Oh no, it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know if you remember, I put in an order of like 20 shirts, right? I like put shirts on the whole neighborhood here. And at some point they ran out of lettering.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even ask. They just like reverted to I guess it was the Arial or whatever, right? They reverted to the standard. And so like half of the kits were, and the way they explained it was like half of the kits are for the domestic league and half of the kits are for Europe. And they were like, we prefer the Europe logo and everything, but like we always have to have this one anyway. And so he was saying this in Turkish, and my translator, who's like fairly well versed in this, but like not to the extent that we are, couldn't quite explain it to me. So I was just like, whatever.
I didn't even know they offered the option to choose between the two fonts.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay.
They do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was it's been a thing for the last 2 years ago was when we introduced the new font for the European games.
Mm-hmm.
So since then you've had an option as to whether you want the European font or the domestic font on the shirts.
And maybe
so
maybe you can show off your shirt as well, Katla, because you're wearing one of the new shirts as well. I'm the only cheap ass here. I'm wearing an old shirt.
I've got the new home shirt on here. It was my favourite out of the set. I probably will, but I've only got picked up this one for just now because like custom fees and stuff like that because of Brexit are really bad. So I didn't want to splash out too much. So
yeah, I understand that.
I've got a family friend that's going to Turkey next month, so I might ask him to bring back another one for me, and then I'm going to Turkey myself in September anyway. Hopefully, fingers crossed if I can get the time off approved from work for my cousin's wedding. So I'll probably buy a second one at some point, but for just now I've only got this one. But yeah, I think this is a cool shirt, man. As we said, as we discussed last week, Karen, on the transfer rumour episode.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a little while to warm up to a shirt. The white one, definitely for me, my first impression of it was like, I don't know about that. But then, the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of unique. This is like the first shirt in history that does this, in our shirt history at least. And it's pretty cool, I guess. But you're warming up to the one Sinan is wearing, right? What do you
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, Khan. My daughter said that the white one that Cartel's wearing. I have it too over here. I'll switch my shirts throughout the episode. But she said it reminded her of Harley Quinn, and that made me think of you. I know you're a fan.
Oh, yeah. That's a good spot. Right, yeah. Because she does she has the black and red team going on. So that's a astute observation by your daughter there.
But maybe we'll be the Jokers this season. We'll catch everyone off guard.
Who knows?
Don't get me wrong. I think I still would have preferred it if it was all like black, but it's something different, and I think the shirt looks cool, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it might have been too simple if it was just all black, though. You know what I mean?
It would have just been like it would have. I think the initial impression of everyone would be, oh, that's nice, but it would have just been another regular white shirt.
It's simple, but traditionally a white shirt should be simple anyway. That's if you look back to our white shirts in the 90s and before that, like throughout history.
Yeah.
The white shirts were traditionally always quite plain, so I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing for a home shirt, but it's definitely added more character to it.
Oh yeah,
to the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now it's time for us to make memories in it. That's how this is gonna be.
That's it, man.
Exactly. Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's kind of what makes a great shirt, right? Like you can have, like, for example, last season's black shirt is I'd say one of my all-time favorite designs. I really, really like it. It's simple, and to come back to what you were saying, Cathal, sometimes less is more, and I'm a big believer in that, and that's what I like about the black shirt from this past season. But at the end of the day, we didn't really achieve much in it. We got a great win against Lyon, but that's pretty much
Fenerbahce away.
Yeah, Fenerbahce away. That's a good point. And then the striped shirt from last season, which was, it wasn't even supposed to be a shirt that season, but it's a catalog version. But I think, most of the good memories from this season were made in that shirt. The Galatasaray wins, both of them. The Athletic Bilbao win, exactly. So, like, most of the big results came in that shirt this season. Or arguably the most memorable ones. But
the shirt with the best record was the green one.
That's true.
1000%.
That is very true. That is very true. So, guys, the plan today is we're going to recap the season. We're not going to do a lot of talking about what's going on right now. I think we can do that next week, where there will be plenty to talk about that.
Yeah, once this voting's been done about the Beşiktaş project.
Exactly, and we'll talk about that also next week. We've already done 2 episodes on that with Ural. I mean, so if you want to know about that, go and check that out. I think we've discussed it as well on a VIP show recently as well. So there's plenty of stuff to go around on the current happenings, ins and outs of the club. The only thing I do want to mention is that today Onur Bulut was officially transferred to Beşiktaş here. They have announced him, and apparently Beşiktaş are getting not 0 but 325,000 euros for him, and that is, in my opinion, a big deal. Not because of the money; it's not a lot of money, but I think it's a big deal because it's Serdar Adala putting his foot down, because Beşiktaş wanted to get him for free. Adala said, no, you're not getting him for free. So they paid a fee. Good. And I think that sounds stupid, but in the past, we would have always let him walk out the door for free. And the same thing is happening right now with Tayyip Talha. Kasim Pasha want to loan him, but they only want to pay like half or even less of his wages. And Adala says, no, that's not happening. You're paying all his wages or you're not getting him. Simple as that. I think that's a good thing. We need to stop being the league's bitch in regards to when we want to offload unwanted players. Yes, they're unwanted for us, but other clubs do want them. So you're going to have to pay. I understand that Rizespor can't pay 1.2 million a year for Amir. I understand that. But Tayyip Talha is on a relatively low wage. Kasim Pasha can pay that, so they shouldn't be trying to scam us out.
You know
of
what?
money,
Too.
essentially.
Now that you mention it, it's almost like a chum feeding the sharks frenzy at the end of every season, right? And there's a few clubs that are always there to bite,
Yeah.
and they just always snap up those guys for free that we let go of. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, one wonders, couldn't we extract a few 100,000 here or there, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you might scoff at that, but there's nothing to sneeze at. There's nothing to sneeze at all. Like, imagine there are times where the difference between signing someone is like $500,000, right? 500,000. And so if you make half of that, getting rid of 2 scrubs that you were going to get rid of for free otherwise,
Yeah.
that's actually fairly significant.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah,
I appreciate
and
that.
if you look at it over a course of maybe 5 or 10 years, it can add up to a couple of million and be a significant
Absolutely.
number. And I think one of the reasons why Beşiktaş is such a financially unhealthy situation is because we don't treat our players or assets in the right way. We have devalued, the other day,
absolutely.
Firat Güner was talking about Onur Bulut not being a bad player and then making the comparison to Rozier and how Rozier walks for free, but we're getting 325,000 euros for Onur Bulut. That does not say anything about the quality of Onur Bulut versus Rozier. That says,
No.
that only says Sedal Abdallah does a better job at it, because
Exactly.
what did we do with Rozier? We kicked him from the squad. We publicly put rumors out there that he did this, and that, and completely devalued him. Of course, clubs aren't going to pay anything then. And Rozier as a player, you could have gotten a couple of million for if you wouldn't have completely devalued him. Then we're not talking about 325,000 euros, and you're maybe talking about 4.5 million euros or something like that. So this is something the club does consistently, and they need to stop doing it. And that's maybe something we're going to talk about as well with I think for the first time that I can remember, a coach actually going out of his way to play a player that the club is not really looking forward to continuing with, in Oxlade-Chamberlain, even in Amir, maybe even Rashica. Those players who are now all rumored to be available on the transfer market. With Ox, we know for sure, but Amir and Rashica, there's rumors out there as well that they're going to be available for a sale or for a loan or whatever. He kept playing those guys because he didn't want to devalue them, because it would only make our jobs harder in the summer, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's.
And we talked about it throughout the season, but then to tie a bow on that, because you'd started that thought with the Rozier thing. Imagine we didn't sell him in a panic or sell. That's
Let him go.
kind.
Yeah.
Imagine we didn't dump him in a panic, and we had sort of seen out his contract or as much of it as we could have, to the point where he was playing. You're absolutely right that we literally gave away. I'm going to say 3 million. I think you might have said 2, but I think we probably could have gotten 3 or 4.
I said 3.5, 4.5. And I think,
there you go.
Like, we allowed that relationship between player and club to deteriorate to such a point as well, where the player just had no interest in staying anymore either. And I'm not saying that Rozier didn't have any fault in the situation, but the problem is that, and we said it at the time, and Carla was very hard on it at the time. I defended it. And I'm going to hold my hand up. Like, I defended it to an extent that, okay. But the whole Kadrodishi situation, it's only been damaging to the club. Not because also it turned out some players had clauses in their contract that they couldn't be left out of the squad, but also just the general principle of things, of devaluing your assets and forcing players out of the club. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a terrible... moment in our history.
In modern football especially, it's never the answer, man. No. There's much better ways of going about your business than doing that.
Yeah.
That potentially costed a lot of money, as you guys have said.
Mm-hmm.
Rozier, maybe
guys.
even if you don't get 3 or 4, see if you get like 1 or 2 million for him still, man, it's a lot better than nothing.
Yeah,
and Cartel, remember, we just got 325K for Onur Bulut. Like, every single one of those guys who could have gotten change, bits and whatever change they could have gotten out of their couch.
Probably apart from Amartey, man, I genuinely believe that guy.
Yeah.
No one wants that guy. Consider
exactly. The fact that he's
everyone apart from him.
He's definitely an outlier.
the fact that he's been a free agent for a year, took a year off. But yeah, it's just, all these small things can add up, and like in the sense of Rosier, it might have even been a decent fee. I mean, look, he just earned a transfer to Osasuna. He's going up in the world. So it's yeah, and he's
just real quick. Who do you think got the jerseys that they bought faster, me or Daniel Amarte this season? So he can do his little practice videos.
I think he's waiting for the training gear.
Yeah. I'm sure he doesn't get anything free anymore.
Man, he was like, the last picture I saw of him, he was wearing training gear with Beko on it, and I thought to myself, how did he get that? Because he was like, when he was playing for us, it was rain, and he was left out.
Yeah,
of
he
the
has a
squad.
friend in the locker room.
So
they still done training like away from the team. So imagine when they were doing their separate training sessions, they still got the new gear.
I guess it has to be either that. I prefer the idea of him ordering it online.
Yeah, exactly. From portal.eu.
Exactly. And I do want to. I want to give those guys a shout out, by the way, because they do a great service. I think I found out today, or a couple of days ago, actually. I found out 2 days ago that you guys in the States, you and Nathan, Sinan, you're getting these shirts cheaper than I would if you're ordering all three at the same time, because you don't have to pay the VAT, you don't have to pay the taxes that they charge in Belgium, under the assumption that you have to pay it when they come into your country. But you didn't get so you got your shirts, instead of for 95 euros, you got them for 76 euros, and even with your 35 euro shipping, you still saved 14 euros on 3 shirts compared to Kartal and Özcan, who had to pay import, unfortunately, and their shirts came out a little bit more pricey. Yeah,
unfortunately, if you're based in the UK, I'm going to be honest, guys, unless you're really desperate, I probably wouldn't order from Qatar.eu because you're going to get shafted with the customs.
Yeah, it's no fault of Qatar, of course, because they go above and beyond already to not, because they get the VAT off, so you don't have to pay them taxes, which normally you would have to.
Yeah, I mean, they take the VAT off, but then you not only pay like the VAT when it comes into the United Kingdom, but there's a couple of extra charges there as well. Mm-hmm. One of them is for just like, it's a customs fee just for like opening the box. So I'd say if you live in the UK, if you know anyone going to Turkey, I'd probably ask them first, but if not, then obviously order from Qatar.eu, but it's going to be pretty costly. I will warn you in advance. So if anyone based in the UK orders them and then gets annoyed at us, well, you've been warned now that unfortunately the UK customs will fuck you. They're not as lenient as the guys in America.
That's the curse of Brexit.
I never knew anything about that stuff. So I guess it's systemic, man.
I noticed
getting these benefits. you must have had.
To be honest, I think you probably should have got Charles, but it seems like the guys in America aren't really doing their job with customs. I'm sure normally, especially with all the tariffs and stuff like that, you think you probably should have got some sort of charge.
Maybe they screen the people and they decide if they want to do it or not. Like, that seems like such an American thing.
Hey,
this guy seems like a dick. Let's get him.
For the longest time, I thought I was getting, because I order a lot of stuff from the States and stuff like that, and I get shafted every time, and it's like, you sent me a package
recently. Maybe you're flagged. Yeah.
And it came through it out, and I was like, "What's this? I didn't have to pay anything." I was dancing, man. I couldn't believe it, because when I say I order
the Midas touch,
it was
baby.
Exactly. So for you, it came out cheaper. For Kathal and Özcan, it came out more expensive. For those
he got the double shaft.
Well, no, actually, so the VAT got deducted from his as well. It's just unfortunate that because of the extra costs. And I think they ended up paying 34% or 40%, something in between there, 34 instead of 20%. So they should have paid 20%, but they ended up paying double almost of what they should have paid because of the extra fees and stuff. And yeah, I feel like they got overcharged still a little bit, but
that like customs fee was like £73 or something. That was crazy.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what including VAT for.
That's like an extra
So I think
jersey.
it was like £26 per jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you paid how much for a jersey before at checkout?
So I think it was like £67, £68, I think.
Yeah, and normally,
with the VAT taken off.
and how much are they normally with the VAT included? How much would they be? Like,
So it'd normally be £80. So I think
Okay.
it's like £15 over. You paid,
All right.
We paid like £15 more per jersey
yeah,
plus shipping.
yeah.
The shipping, well, very good. It's pretty expensive as well, but I suppose that's normal, man, considering it's going from Belgium to the UK and it's coming in one day.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I was gonna say because I can ship that to you a lot cheaper for like €16 probably, but the difference is you're gonna have to wait for like a week or two probably to get it, or at least a week. Yeah, now you got it in 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, they came in one day. They were shipped on the Tuesday and they arrived on the Wednesday. I think it was the same for Cena.
Yeah, that's even more insane because it has to cross the Atlantic, so that goes on the plane. Bam.
I know.
Yeah, that was insane.
I was gonna say I feel even worse now for you guys because it's almost a triple shaft. I don't want to get too political, but you guys didn't even want Brexit to begin with, so like you got screwed on that, and now you're getting screwed on the receiving end of all that, right? So it's just
exactly.
bad news on bad news for you. Sorry, man.
I mean, Brexit doesn't just suck for them, man. It also sucks for people who like to order stuff from the UK. Guilty,
I'm sure.
Guilty again.
I'm sure.
All the stuff I like, you can only get in the UK and in the US, or it's harder to get here regardless. So it's like, it sucks. But let's start talking about the season, guys, because
Let's do it.
I want to kind of.
I'll go first.
I just want to kind of get this season out of the way, this episode out of the way, because let's be honest, it wasn't a great season. Lots of lows, a couple of really nice highlights though. We're gonna talk about those. So let's start. I got my notes up here. Where is it? Let's start off with I think this is gonna be an easy one, but the player of the season. So I'm gonna let Cathal go first, and I think it's gonna be pretty unanimous. But Cathal, who is your player of the season and why?
Rafa Silva.
Oh,
I think the 30 goal contributions speak for themselves.
yeah.
No other player came close to matching his production.
Mm-hmm.
He was the highlight in a season that, although did have some highlights, as you said, had a lot more lowlights, but he was the highlight throughout, apart from a period where his contributions dried up, although in that period he still looked like the player that was the most hungry and the most likely to score. But yeah, I'd say it has to be Rafa Silva.
Okay. Sinan, for you, same answer or something else?
Easily Rafa. I was going to say what might even be more of an interesting conversation, although it actually might be just as unanimous, would be who was the second best player this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure we'd all agree it was Jedson, but
okay. I thought you were going to be like Masuaku, so yeah.
No.
I would agree with Jedson, I think, yeah. I think Jedson was really good as well. 12 goals. Yeah, go ahead. Cathal, you don't agree with Jedson?
I still want to see his move on from Jedson, but I think you can't deny that, especially in the big games. I'd even go as far as saying Jedson was the star in the big games.
Yeah, especially in Europe, right? Early on, when we had that really promising campaign going, he was like talismanic, right?
Yeah, but also
Jedson was at the Fenerbahce game as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Galatasaray game.
Yeah.
Galatasaray and Fenerbahce games, Jedson scored the goals.
Scored the winning goals against both teams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think as much as I do want to see his move on, because it seems like he's found his value in terms of transfer fee, even if we get half of it or not. But you're probably not going to get a better transfer fee than what we're being offered just now. And he's 26 now.
26.
Yeah, he's 26. Yeah, he's a year younger than me, so he's 26. So I think he's right at that age for selling. I think see if we hold on to him for longer, we risk him declining in value as he gets closer to 30.
Yeah, obviously he'll decline in value, but he could be a T-Bat that plays for us for 10 years or 12 years or whatever, you know.
But I still think it's best we move on and go for a different profile at that position. especially considering the fee we're getting. But I think it wasn't a season where we had a lot of very good players, but I think considering his big match performance especially, I think he'd probably need to be the number 2. I think after that it's either the goalkeeper Mert or
Really?
one of the centre backs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say probably one of the center backs then. Masuaku, of course, statistically a great season. How many assists was it? 10 assists or 8 in the league and 10 in total or something. So it's pretty crazy for a fullback. But yeah, he had that.
Yeah, but if it was poor in the first half of the season, and too many times they fucked us.
Yeah.
Beyond 1 and 2, I'm gonna keep quiet. I've done, as I said previously, I've done a very detailed review of the season. I'm gonna do my Schwarting report, power rankings. So I'm gonna rank the whole team at the beginning of July. So I'll keep hush on anything past the top 2. And I say that because in the chat we have Ismail Safavi, who's new, and we'll go through the comments, guys. Don't worry, we'll get to all of them. But he said, "What about Mert Günok and Emirhan Topçu?" And I mean, yeah, we could go over every player, but I don't think we will today. That said,
No.
I certainly will in the Schwarting report. So tune in.
We actually will, Sinan, because we're gonna do the FM kill. Right?
Yeah, that's true. So
we are going to go over them. So we will talk about Mert, we will talk about Emirhan and all those guys. So don't worry about that. And if you're wondering what Sinan's talking about, the Schwarting report, that's a VIP exclusive monthly podcast that Sinan does, and he goes over the results, and he goes over not just the results on the field, but also the results off the pitch. How did the board perform? How did the coach perform? How did the players perform? So he does a ranking, a power ranking, like he just said, every month. Comes out around the 1st of every month. And go and check that out. That's one of the many extras you get if you become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. So go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş or just click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Okay, guys.
Adali's moving in for a good grade this month.
Oh yeah, I mean he just sold
what we were saying earlier.
He just sold Onur Bulut, so that's like automatically a B+ like, already, right?
Exactly. We might be on A-. Like given what you were saying beyond that too, with him kind of putting his foot in the ground and demanding fees and. He's getting Diklitash done. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Well, he might actually be... not yet. He needs to get the votes on Sunday. On the 22nd. A new subscriber. Thank you, by the way, for subscribing.
Hey! Hey, lads. I didn't catch, but I'll rewatch. You haven't missed much, SM Kiki. Don't worry. Yeah, and that's for Chadi Temistuna. Thank you, sir.
And we only just started when it comes to our season review. So, player of the season, unanimously Rafa. And the second best player, which is a little bit more interesting to talk about, I think. Also, unanimous Jetson Fernandez. So, let's move on then to the flop of the season. And I'm going to let you have the first say on that one, Sinan. Who is the flop of the season for you?
I mean... if I were to go to my power rankings, for example, and like pick out the worst player, like that would almost be unfair because there are guys who just played so minimally, right? Like Jakub Arda Kilic. Like Jakub Arda Kilic, right? I think he appeared twice this season, and one of them was sort of a negative performance, right? That last one where he came in as a sub and we gave up a game. Yeah. But like that's not fair. You can't say this.
No, it has to be. He didn't get any time. It has to be compared to expectations. So what did we expect from a player and how did he come in? I mean, I have my name already.
I think the answer's obvious.
Yeah,
I think we both do then. And here's why. We came into this season with one answer and many questions. And the answer was, the one thing we knew, no matter what, was that we were bringing this amazing talent in from last season, this kid who had played so well, and that we were going to keep developing. So at the very least, this was going to be our silver lining, this amazing talent that was, getting so good. Oh. And that being Semi Kilic.
Okay. I was not going to go for Semi. I wasn't.
For me, he was... the one thing that you had that we knew, right? He's gonna play all year. He's gonna be amazing. Yeah. He's gonna keep building on his success. Yeah. I got his jersey going into the season, and he ended up being a net negative
Yeah.
for much of the season, to the point where he got benched and barely even came in.
You are so right on that. I'm curious, Cathal, do you agree? Is Semi Khilisoy the flop of the season?
I think it's a very, very valid and good argument that Sinan's made there, and I'd be inclined to agree. But just to keep things interesting, I'm going to go for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Sinan's answer was fantastic.
Yeah,
spot on. But
I think so too.
I'm just going to attack it from another side and go for Ciro Immobile.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay.
Just based off of the wages he got, $6 million a year. He was injured a couple of times, and then apart from a good start, was bad for the most of the season. So I'd go with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that he didn't live up to my expectations, because to be honest, I didn't have high expectations anyway. Going into it, you guys know I was against the transfer, but in terms of cost of performance, I'd say Ciro Immobile is my candidate for the flop of the season.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, because my first inclination was also Ciro Immobile, and mainly, the guy scored. The guy did still score 19 goals this season, a bunch of penalties in there. We have to say that as well. But I think, if you look at, like Cathal said, at the money he's being paid, $6 million a year, and the expectations that were involved with him coming in, and I've got a dog invasion here. We're doggy sitting. But the expectations going in, I didn't even think of Semi, honestly. My thought immediately went to Ciro, and I think Semi is such a great shout as well. And the reason my thought went to Ciro is just because you expect... Cathal says, I didn't really expect too much, but I still expected him to score goals relatively easily. And in so many games, I was disappointed by him not scoring. And early on, I defended him a lot, and I think rightfully so, by the fact that we didn't create enough chances for him. But when Ole came in, that changed. I think we started creating chances for him. Not a plethora of chances, not 4 or 5 big chances per game, but I do think somebody like Ciro Immobile, with that reputation, a former European Golden Boot, I think he shouldn't need 4 or 5 chances to score a goal. I think 2 should be enough. And I think in so many matches he missed relatively easy chances, and I'm of course saying relatively to what you would expect from a player of his caliber. Also the fact that we didn't really have a second option, and there comes Sinan's argument for Simi. But I think the fact that Ciro was such a dud, despite the 19 goals, really, really heavily impacted our season in an adverse way. I think if we would have had a striker, like I've said that before, we would have had somebody like Paul Onuachu, I think we would have had a much better season. I'm not saying we would have competed for the championship, but I think we would have at least finished in 3rd place, and I think it would have been very, very comfortably so, and I think we wouldn't be that far behind Fenerbahce. Maybe, 7-8 points or something, which is still a lot, but it's a lot less than 20 odd. So it's a really tough one, because Semi is kind of that one. We had massive expectations for him coming off of last season. He was amazing. He was delighted in the darkness last season, what Rafa kind of was this season. That's what Semi was last season for us. And then we have big expectations. We didn't sell him in the summer. We probably could have sold him for 20+ million, but we didn't, because obviously, if he goes on and has a second season and really good season, probably could have been 30 million. And then he kind of fell off completely. He did score a couple of goals, 3, I believe. Ended up on the bench. Lots of talk about his attitude not being great. So it's a tough one. I think honestly...
So you're the deciding vote?
I honestly think I'm going to have to go for Simi, just because, despite the fact that I think Ciro is a disappointment, he still had a much bigger impact on our season. I still, not necessarily great, but just because of Simi's lack of an impact on the season. So I think I'm going to have to go with Simi, also because I think Simi is somebody who we all expected to get 30+ million for 12 months ago. And now we're looking at, would we take 10? Would we take 15?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, despite the fact what Ciro has cost us 6 million a year and all that kind of stuff, we lost even more money on Simi almost because of how bad his season has gone. So hopefully,
Absolutely.
it turns out to be wrong. But I think Simi is kind of the flop of the season, and that doesn't mean that he can't go on and still have a great career. He's still only 19 years old, but
Agreed.
he has been disappointing. So
in that regard, he just played for the Turkish under-19 national team and scored like a pretty decent goal. And I remember thinking, my first thought was like, "Oh shit, he's still only 19." This season was so colossally bad that he aged like 5 years in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there is in fact still very much a chance for him to get it back on track and have a good career. It's all about his mentality, right? It's about what goes on in his head, and we gotta hope for the best, man, because he is such a talent. It would be such a waste.
It would be. He would be up there with Batuhan and with Mohamed Demirci, really, if he ends up, So let's hope.
Hall of Shame.
Let's hope it doesn't happen. There's rumors right now that Leeds United are interested in him for £18 million. Utrecht, of course, very interested in him. So let's hope that a season-long loan without option to buy to Utrecht might do him a lot of good, or just straight
a lot of good, yeah.
Or if Leeds is willing to put £18 million on the table, I think that's a great offer. That's 21 million euros. That would be great.
Yeah, take it. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I agree with you on Simi, but I also think Ciro is a very close runner-up. Let us know.
Ciro's a good shout. I'm not. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Who's your player of the season and who is your flop of the season, and whatever all the coming points that we're gonna be talking about, let us know your opinions as well in the comments or in the live chat. So our next one is the goal of the season. Kartal, I'm gonna let you have the first crack at this one. I think some differing opinions on this one probably. So what's your goal of the season?
Jedson Fernandez goal against Lugano, just because of the assist from Nafa.
Okay.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
Jetson's goal against... Which one was that? I can't...
In the second leg at home. The one we
right. Right. Yeah, Simi passes it into Rafa. Rafa lofts it over the defense, and Jetson makes a run in behind. It's a great goal. That's a good shout. Sinan, what's your goal of the season?
So, I've got 4.
No. Just
I'm gonna have to pick one.
Pick one without mentioning the other ones first, because otherwise you might might steal my thunder.
You want me to steal your thunder?
Exactly.
All right, I'll mention the other ones after you pick.
Yeah.
Shit. I still can't decide. Okay, I guess I'm gonna go for the Rafa Silva goal in the cup against Antalya. Do you remember the one where the volley, one shot, dings it off the top post?
Okay.
So that's
a great goal. But mine is also Rafa Silva, and this is Rafa Silva against Galatasaray in the league. It has to be the goal of the season, in my opinion, just because of how it completely turned Davinson Sanchez into a meme. So many Davinson Sanchez memes out there because of that. I think that goal kind of encapsulates our season as well, because we were so bad.
I was picking between those two.
So I'm glad you didn't pick this one. So for me, it has to be Rafa against Galatasaray in the league, because of how he completely, made a meme out of Davinson Sanchez. And also, very important, that goal kick-started our win against them, and they finished the season on just one loss in the league, and it preserved our Namalup Tech Champion standing. Yeah. So very important, I think. If anything, in my opinion, the most important thing coming out of this season is that we are still the only undefeated champions in Turkish football history. I think that is the single most important thing from this season. So it has to be that goal, I think. The Jets.
So let me go over my other candidates real quickly. Real quickly, because it was between those two, and actually in my head, I went to bed last night with that as my goal of the season, and I said because it was a more significant goal than the cup one, especially since we lost the cup and didn't go very far in it. But so other candidates, there was a great goal by Rafa Silva against Hatay more recently in April 25th.
That was good.
Where he curled it around, found the top right corner, beautifully placed. Then, obviously the one against Galatasaray in March 29th. The Antalyaspor were in the cup, and then there was another goal against Gladysdale in a loss. The first half of the season, and it was a bullshit garbage time goal. But do you remember Mucci? That goal he scored? He
against Galatasaray,
took a volley from outside of the penalty box from a crazy angle and looped it into the top corner far post. It was crazy. So
if that would have saved the point or would have been a winner, that would undoubtedly be goal of the season.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was, and that's why when I went to bed, I was like, I'm going to pick the Gladstone goal, the Rafa one, because it was the most significant. But that one against Antalya really stood out for me. So
do you want to? Anyway. Shall we do a couple of comments now already before we move on? Then we can
I was going to say that. Yeah. Exactly. Let's keep abreast on the comments. So first of all, Carlito. Good to see him back. He said, Arial font for life. Good to see you, gents. Good to see you, too. And as content, it had been a while, so it's great to see a lot of familiar faces in the chat there. Yigiche Beşiktaş writes, the black is always best. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I've already swapped out. Every time I go refill my water, whenever I refill my water, I'm going to come back with a new shirt on. So it's going to be the... if anyone wants to know, on the back of this one, I've got... a guy, I had to go for names that I knew would be on the team coming into this season, so it was actually pretty slim picking.
That's a tough one always, man. You have to be careful with those guys.
And see if and there's been reports in the last few days that actually there's interest in okay.
Oh my god! If we sell him after all that, that's fucking. I mean, I'll still be happy because I liked him enough that I would want to remember him being on the team. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but switched into that one. But I mean, the black one, I am kind of feeling it now that I said this in. Everyone should, by the way, follow, subscribe on YouTube, check out our Patreon, and if you do that, you'll gain access into our WhatsApp group chat. I made a joke there that I showed all my jerseys to my wife. I've been wearing the black one with the collar up, and she said it looks great. Although you're not 18 anymore, put the collar down, young man. Besides how hurtful that was, I don't know. I actually quite like the black one with the collar up too. So
yeah, I thought it looked cool, man. I just want to respond to Dennis's comment. He said Chiro isn't a flop. I expected nothing from him before he even signed. Semi is too young. Ups and downs are expected. My vote goes to Amir. He fell short, providing playmaking we desperately needed. So Dennis,
that's a strange shout.
I agree. I was on the same boat as you. I didn't expect anything from Chiro either. If you listened to the podcast last summer, I was dead against the move because of his age and the fact that he had 2 poor seasons prior to signing for us last year. So I was dead against it. But just because I didn't expect anything from him, and just because you didn't expect anything from him, that doesn't mean that the club and the club clearly did expect a lot from him. The club paid him €6 million a year and gave him a 2-year deal. So I don't know how familiar you are with how much players are paid, but that's the joint highest pay Beşiktaş has ever given any player. So you could argue that the club had the joint most faith in him than they've had alongside Rafa than they've had in any other player ever, because they've had the most pay. When you think about it financially, that's what that means. Plus,
that's an oversimplification.
As I said, maybe me and you didn't think he'd be good, we didn't expect much, but the general community did expect a lot from him. So to say he isn't a flop, I don't think that's true. Maybe not for you, and I'm not surprised, but he's definitely still a flop considering the investment and the trust the club put into him. So I don't agree with that. As for Semi, ups and downs are certainly expected, but this wasn't such an up and down. He had a terrible season. It was, apart from maybe this very start of the season, it was pish all year. It was rubbish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what's worse is
Chiro, who we're all complaining about just now, saying it's not good enough, but a lot of the time, I think, especially on this podcast, that even when Chiro was bad, we thought he still looked better than Semi. Which it tells you a lot about Semi's performances. As for Amir, for a guy that was brought in for the second half of the season and didn't even play for most of it, it was really Ox's replacement up until Ox got injured.
Yeah.
I don't think you can call that a guy that was meant to be a sub or was planned in as a sub 6. You can't really call him the flop of the year.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Cartel.
Certainly not.
And to add on to what you were saying, I mean, not only was it a kind of colossally bad, it wasn't just like an up and down kind of down for Semi, but it was just colossally bad. On top of that, we kind of left holes in our roster with the idea being Semi has to play every match, either on the left wing or right. So like we kind of left that, like ultimately our lack of creativity all season came from the hole that was left in the squad because we banked so heavily on Semi being a guaranteed starting player. So we differ on that one, and I fully agree with you, Cartel. I think you can't say Amir is the biggest flop in that he only appeared for half the season, and it was kind of like a salvage operation after we got rid of Almost Rachi, right? He was never really part of the team's plans, or if anything,
he was the backup up until Ox got injured.
Exactly, yeah. No, and if anything, I think it was Ole just being like, let's see what we have in this player, and before we make our final decision, in the summer. And if anything, maybe even as Khan was alluding to earlier, and I think this is a great check in Ole's column. It was like, let's get this guy some playing time with a larger spotlight on him, right? Because he wouldn't get much of a spotlight at Rize. Whereas with Beşiktaş, even that getting less time theoretically, there's more eyes on him from scouts and whatnot. So I think it makes sense that we did what we did. I don't even think he was that bad.
No, he wasn't. No,
he wasn't that bad.
He wasn't that bad. No, he was okay. He wasn't. I mean, he wasn't good. He's not good enough for Beşiktaş. I think that's clear. No. But you can say the same about Onur Bulut. Onur Bulut isn't good enough for Beşiktaş either. But Onur Bulut put in a fucking stinker every time he played. Amir didn't put in a stinker. Yeah, exactly. Like
Amir was fine for the top, man.
If Amir was Turkish, I'd be okay keeping him for depth.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
But he's not.
100%.
Koji are supposedly interested, so I really hope he goes there.
Yeah. Well, I'd much rather he goes somewhere else, like to Italy or something, because before he got injured, there was rumored interest from Italy. Much rather him go there. And we.
Yeah, I mean, of course, in an ideal situation, you'd rather that, but the question is, that was before his injury.
Yeah.
So after his injury and the fact that he's not got back to his level where he was at previously, you don't know if that interest is there anymore.
No. But this is all stuff we're going to talk about in a bit, guys. And when it comes to Simi, what Dennis said, I think I 100% agree with what you say, Dennis, that young players will have ups and downs, and they should be.
But that wasn't.
This was
and we're still hoping for the best.
Exactly,
a dip. That's worth mentioning.
A dip should not last a season. A season-long dip is not ups and downs. That's just a bad season at the end of the day. If you look at Ciro Immobile had a season with ups and downs. He had good matches, he had good performances, and he had a lot of bad performances as well, or insignificant performances. He had a season with ups and downs. Simi just had a bad season. End of the story. Ciro, if he wasn't earning 6 million a year, if he was on 1.5 million a year, I don't think anyone would be complaining about his season. We would be complaining because we expect more from our number one striker. But I think people would be fine with keeping him as a number 2. Or maybe. I don't know. But 6 million a year is just, that makes him a flop. But he still...
Personally, I don't think Ciro, if possible, we really need to get rid of the Ciro, man, because we didn't see him come off the bench and give an impact at all in this past season.
But this is, again, Cartel, this is for later. You're jumping the gun, my friend.
Yeah, we'll do this. Let me do a few more comments here. We've got Ismail Safavi, who... actually, let me do his later comment first, because I thought it's informative. He said that he's not new. He's been subscribed for over half a year, just shy. That's all.
Okay.
Well, come on out. The water's just fine, Ismail. And he said, hello, fellow Eagles. The Beşiktaş official football channel just posted a video statement of Serdar fully explaining the construction investment and how it differs from previous investment projects. Ismail, I hope you're on Patreon. You should join that, because I'm Ural, our financier, he's going to give a monthly review of Serdar Dale and everything he's done. And I think it's going to be a much more interesting review this month, because there's much more ups, a few downs, but I've been really harsh with my grading of him in those monthly things until now, and I actually I'm almost excited that I get to take a different perspective. But yeah, for sure, we're gonna talk about Serdar Adalı soon. We're gonna do that at some point later this episode. Yusuf, a new commentator, just writes Beşiktaş full caps, 2 eagle emojis. Welcome. We have a lot of Yusufs, but like different spelling, so that's exciting.
Yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet.
Yeah, like, follow, subscribe. Also, like this video, folks. I mean, I noticed I tried to like it and it didn't register it. So, like, while we're live, I feel like it struggles sometimes with that. But like the video too. That helps us get a wider audience.
Yeah, exactly. Commenting as well.
Yigice.
If you're watching us on delay, leave a comment. It really helps. And don't forget and like because
and we actually get back to those too.
Oh yeah. Always reply if there's substance to your comment. I'll always respond to it. And I think Katla keeps an eye on it as well. And maybe Yusian, I don't know. Somebody else sometimes answers them as well.
I did once or twice. I sometimes I check. Yeah, now that I've started putting up the Schwarting report myself, I get more notifications from our anyway, long story short, yes, I will as well. Next comment, Yigice, Beşiktaş squad is not that bad. Or sorry, I'm gonna do a little ESL, little English teacher work here. Beşiktaş squad is not as bad as it has been criticized by color commentators as being. Immobile can be second great option for center forward position.
I mean,
I don't want to be too harsh because I feel like I understand what you're saying to some extent, right? Like,
we're gonna get back to this.
Maybe I disagree.
We're gonna get but we're gonna get back to this because I cut off Kartal earlier with that, and I want to talk about that later. So I'm gonna let Kartal have the first say on that once we get to that point. There's plenty to say about that, but we'll get back to that. Put a pin in that one, Sinan. Who was the comment from? Sorry.
Yeah. Yigice.
Yeah. We'll get back to that one, Yigice. We'll get back to that one later. But we're doing the. You remember, guys? We do this whole marry, fuck, kill thing where we go over who we want to keep as a starter, who we want to put on the bench. That would be fuck. and then kill are the guys that we're gonna send off on loan or we're gonna transfer them, or let them go, to tear up their contracts, So we're gonna do that later. Right. So when it comes to Chiro, we'll talk about that in a bit. So the whole idea of keeping him as a sub will be addressed then.
And by later, we mean like in 10 minutes, not in next episode.
No, stay tuned. Half an hour maybe. I don't know. 10 minutes, not the way we. It might be.
I always underestimate. Anyway, so Ismail Safavi again says, "What about Mert Günok and Emir Hantovich?" I already mentioned that. Like I said, we're gonna do that.
Talk about that later.
Or I like concept. Next, another new comment. I mean, I love to see all these new comments, new commentators in the chat. SM Kiki, Cookie, Kiki, Kaki, I don't know. You could let us know what that is. Hi lads, I didn't catch, but I'll re-watch. Yeah, and that was already at that point. I think you hadn't missed much. John Kartal with Ozzy Osbourne as his avatar. I would say that Masuaku is also in the top 3 of the best players of the season, behind Rafa and Jedson. We'll talk about that. We'll push that back to the Marry Fuck Kill session. I know Kartal will disagree with you on that. Carlito ROIY is definitely Cheeto. ROI? Rookie of the interim?
I'm not sure.
It's got to be flop of the year, I guess, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Nasser, yes. He just said he just joined Kartal and Sinas. This is the new shirt. I actually had the black shirt on to begin with. I'll be recycling through them all again. So, yes, stay tuned for that, Nasser.
Yeah.
Umer Farouk Uzdemir says, in absence of the sheep. Oh, I love this. This is fucking some heavy poetics. We got a philosophe here. In the absence of the sheep, the goat is called Abdurrahman Chelebi. I don't even know who that is. In this case, it's Masuaku, the one-eyed man in the land of the blind, which is, I think, a very fanciful way of saying a mediocre player in a season full of players who didn't play well at all. That's interesting. So, I mean, Kartal, you're going to be in the minority, it sounds like. A lot of people are being pro Masuaku here.
He is made. Yeah. He looks a lot better because of the mediocrity around him. Because we don't have.
Yeah, which is what he's saying artistically. He says he was a one-eyed man in the land of the blind. Which is that's a beautiful poem.
Also, he gets 10 assists this season because there's no other outlet on the wing. If we have two decent wingers, he gets 2 or 3 assists or maybe 4 assists this season. If you look at his career, he's never had this many assists, and that is because he was one of the main outlets of our attacks, and the sheer number of crosses he was allowed or almost forced to put in led to these amounts of assists. He would never get this in a normal season where he's surrounded by decent wingers and all that kind of stuff. So he looks better than he really was, also because of that. Not just because, one eye king of the blind. It's just because so much of our attacks went over him. Instead of playing Janar ball and Quaresma ball, we were playing Masuaku ball in a lot of matches, and it masks his deficiencies. The amount of assists he got.
I will say he ended up very high on my power.
He was good in the second under Ole. He was good. He didn't play. I mean, he rarely had a bad game under Ole. But
and here's another aspect.
Still get cooked in the second half of the season by Yusuf said.
He did.
Another in one match, yeah. But in an important aspect to why he rated so highly in my power rankings is also he was exceptionally healthy this season, which he didn't miss in a season where everybody missed a chunk. He was one guy who just played from match day 1 all the way through.
He missed 2 games.
So, I mean that's a credit to him.
He missed 2 games and both were due to suspension. Yeah. He didn't miss a single game.
So that puts his thumb on the scale a little bit, I would say. But anyway. And so Carlito responded. He says, sorry, finance talk, ROI equals return on investment. I feel like I should have known that. So I concur with Carto. Cheeto, the performance was not there. Right. Finance talk, le financier over here. Ural, I'm looking forward to your Schwarting Report contribution this month.
Can we move on to the next topic? Or are there still...
a few more chats, a few more in the chat. Yeah. So SM Kiki, Kaki. I don't know. You gotta tell us what that name is, man. He wasn't the same as last season. He lost his confidence. We're talking about Semi.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well,
his face reflected his mentality. It's true. He always had his head down. I mean,
well, he did that last season too. That's just the way he dribbles. Yeah. But that's. And I also feel like I was one of the first people to notice that, by the way, because I feel like that didn't get mentioned at all in the media and on the podcast, and I just. One day I said he's always got his head down like that, and then like in the following weeks and months, I feel like people started really pointing it out all the time. I don't know if I don't know, maybe that's just in my head, but I feel like I was one of the first people to point that out.
I remember you saying it, and you were saying it was would be an important part of his growth, as I recall. Yeah,
he didn't. If he would, didn't grow. Because one of the main issues I think for him, for Simi, is that very often he loses oversight and he's not aware of his surrounding and his teammates. And I think he would be a much better player if he'd be, if he was able to link up with players consistently. He has smart players around him like Rafa, like Jetson. He should have been trying to look for 1-2s and those types of situations, and instead he was always just running into a forest of legs. He was trying to because it worked for him a couple of times last season where he just put his head down, he started on a dribble, and he somehow ended up in a good position and scored a goal. It worked for him a couple of times last season, but this season, more often than not, it didn't really work out, because at the end of the day he always started on an adventure that he didn't really know the end of, and the really good players, they know exactly where they want to go, and Simi didn't know where he was going, like he was just trying something.
And I mean, one of his strengths was staying on top of the ball, so that even if a defender got a piece of it, he would kind of get the deflection and still keep his run alive. And so that was just not going his way this season for whatever reason. SM Kaki, whatever. He says that Rafa, the god for the goal, that was his goal of the season. Umar Faruk Özdemir, our poetic philosopher, that goal also saved our unbeaten title, which is also important historically. Yeah. Which is what you said later on, Khan. And then SM Kaki, absolutely, that's why, because it was so important and wonderful. Yeah. In retrospect, I probably should have chosen that one. I agree.
I'm glad you didn't.
Denny's BVD, we did that. Khan. So this is neither you, Khan, nor Khan 2.0. This is Khan 3.0, as I recall. And so he says the good, meaning I think the best player, Rafa Silva. Snoo, and I don't know if that's Snoo, like, I think there's a Pokemon with that name. I think there's also a chewing tobacco with that name. So I don't know. You're going to have to explain that name too, Snoo.
Snus.
Yeah.
I was playing game while listening, but Altabed to like now. I don't know what Altabed means.
Alt-tapped, maybe?
That's gotta be a typo.
Alt-tap to like now. Alt-tap to like now, probably. Yeah. He's playing a game,
it must have been
so he'll.
I think the fact that he's playing a game meant that he didn't fully type that whatever that thought out was.
I understand it. You know.
It works. We've pieced.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
That's right. And then finally we have Sal BJK. Good morning, lads. 4:30 a.m. here because he's of course in Australia. Sal, again, to give a shout out to our group chat, is one of like 4 guys I feel like I've been talking to a lot these last couple of weeks because of the time zones. And we've been talking about like everything from Beşiktaş to the war in the Middle East to comic books to basketball. So we've been all over the place with our conversations in that group chat. It's been a slow week for Beşiktaş news. I think we can all agree. And then Snoo. Sorry, it's my native, but I'm mostly here but lurking. Sure, man. No problem.
Let us know, by the way. Let us know in the comments, by the way, guys, if you've already gotten any of the new shirts for the new season and where we got them from. Sal, I don't know if you already put in your order in Cathal Juvas, if they have already arrived. I mean, they arrived so quickly for Sinan and for Cathal that I'd be curious to hear how long it takes in Australia there to get them. All right, let's move on to the next one. And I don't, for me, this is a tough one. Save of the season. Oof. Sinan, can you think of?
I didn't even answer this.
Yeah, meaning I don't really have one in my head. I mean, like obviously, if the Euros counts, then Mert's save against Austria. Otherwise, there
you
go. He had a couple of really important saves this season as well. I think, like in the match against Fener, probably or something. I remember thinking, if Mert doesn't make, I don't remember what game it was, but I do remember thinking in certain situations, if Mert didn't make that save, we probably didn't get the result or something. Do you?
Yeah, Mert played quite a few really, really, really good games, man.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Especially, I feel like especially when we're doing really shit. I think he was good in that period as well.
Yeah.
I think we could have lost even more games in that period than he stopped it from happening. The cup game we won against Sivas, I think he saved their arses there. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure he saved their arses against Rizespor too.
A number of times he made key saves, like to hold a draw or to hold a win, where we were up only by a goal. So, I mean, this is what I was going to say was that rather than pick out one, because there were quite a few. In fact, I think you could almost really go through every match and find at least one kind of impressive save. I mean, maybe not every match, but just about.
But there isn't really one that really jumps out, right? Like where you can think,
exactly.
Exactly.
All right.
And so I just wanted to take this chance to give him a shout out for what was, I think, generally speaking, a pretty solid season for him. Even though I'm still in the camp of feeling like maybe we need a replacement long term. I mean, he's 35 now. Right?
36, I think.
Yeah, I think that
36.
one we can just leave. We could just leave that one until next season, man.
Yeah, I mean, considering how many holes we have to fill.
It's funny. The sad thing is, though, like we said the same thing last year. Like, ideally, getting a better keeper, but we can leave it till next year, and it just shows you that really, apart from Rafa and the centre back position, we still need players in every other position, basically, man. So it's sad to see that, apart from 2 positions, left centre back and the number 10, we've not developed at all.
Yeah.
And we're still saying, we can leave that for another year.
Yeah.
Let's keep that for the next segment, guys. Let's move on.
Yes, indeed.
Let's move on then to the match of the season. And Kathleen, I'm going to start with you. What, in your opinion, was the match of the season? Our best game, the most significant game? It can mean however you interpret it.
For me, it's the Lugano game. I think that was the best. The best game. The 5-1 game was the best game of the season.
Okay.
So you're going to... I was going to say like a special honorary mention to the Super Cup against Galatasaray because it was like such a resoundingly good performance. Not especially meaningful, but it like, you know, you go into every season with a degree of hope, and then to see that hope result in great results right out of the gate, you're starting to think, right? Like suddenly we're getting delusions of grandeur. And I think Lugano kind of does the same thing, and it's a slightly more meaningful match than the Super Cup, so that's probably a decent shout.
Okay. Well,
I'd say the Super Cup match is more meaningful, but see at the same time, I think that game potentially made their season worse than it could have been. I'll tell you why. See if we lost to Galatasaray or just beat them 1-0, let's say, or 2-1. I think the board last year would have made more transfers. I think the rest.
Yeah, but that's a different. That's a different.
Do you really think that? I don't think there was money for that.
Also, I feel like that's a different conversation.
Of it for sure, man.
But in a way, Cartel, what you're saying is that it was such a great win. Yeah. It was so resounding.
That was
right.
That was the best. It was the biggest derby win we've seen in our lifetimes, man. Maybe not the best football, but the best derby win we've seen in our lives. None of us have seen a 5-0 win against Galatasaray before.
I'd argue that
that's why I feel like maybe you're playing like 5D chess on that a little too hard. Like in that, like it's still. And you're right. I think in a way you're right that it led to complacency by the board. But I think it's because of how great of a victory and how resounding and how impressive it was that it could have even potentially led to any of that. So I mean, point being, I still feel like the win itself was
brilliant. It was fantastic.
Was fun.
Okay, well,
I don't think I've seen so much early season optimism, especially in these last. You know,
I mean, I think see when we were good before, we did have that. But see, I agree, man. Like the start of this season was the best I've felt in years because we saw some of the best football we've seen Beşiktaş play in a decade.
And the expectations going into the season were also so low. You know, I think we were all probably kind of dreading that Super Cup, weren't we? To an extent, like I remember leading.
I'm not going to lie, man. The friendlies got me excited because I think we played some great football in the friendlies, and then after that game, I think
people got very excited.
Sinan, who's actually normally the most positive, you could argue out of all of us, actually was the one being a bit cautious in his analysis after that. Because I think me and you especially we started believing in the title. We weren't saying it was probable. In fact,
I got bagged on because I said we're gonna finish in third, but like I was like a competitive third. We're gonna be nipping at their heels. And we were like, "You fucking asshole!"
I did say after the Super Cup that I don't believe that this squad has the ability to, in its form at that period, before because we still had like a month left of the transfer window. After that 5-0 win, I said. And some of the results after that, I said that we've got we were playing the best football, which we were. We're playing. I think at the start of this season, we played the best football since the start of Cheryl Guresh's first stint. I think at the start of this past season, we played the best football since then. I felt. But I did say that I feel like the squad didn't have enough in it to go the marathon. Because we're lacking depth and we're very bare in some areas.
But we still signed a lot of players afterwards, you know. Because
we did, but we didn't address the main issue, I think, which was creativity. We never addressed that. And even the João Mario transfer, like, see when his name was first mentioned, we were all quite cold about it. I wasn't happy with it, but Adrian Souza's interview that he done with yourself, I think that had us more excited after it, and thought maybe it could be the answer.
And I would argue we saw I think we did end up seeing quite a bit of what Adrian said in the interview later on in the season. I mean, I think he is
We did.
I mean, you can clear. I said for months he's a good football player, while everyone was saying no, this is shit, absolute shit, dog shit, blah blah blah blah blah. I said he's a good football player, but it wasn't coming out. And in the second half of the season, I think we saw a good football player there. But like you were right, it didn't address the issue. We lost Gezal. You could argue we lost him 2 seasons ago. As Sinan switched shirts on us again. That looks pretty good, man.
So,
that looks pretty good.
With a black undershirt.
See, he needs to take the
black
undershirt
undershirt
off.
is key.
See, you need to take the undershirt off so we can see if we can see any chest there.
Here, I'll pull it out. This is where it gets a little dicey. But with the black undershirt, which I always wear anyway, it's all right.
You know what, Sinan? I think all 3 shirts look great on you, bro.
Thanks, sir. I have a one.
I think this one looks best.
Quick quiz
on him, to be honest.
Guys, quick quiz though. Who do I have on the back? I'm gonna give you a clue.
I know.
This was the one that was the
unanimous S tier Beşiktaş legend.
It has to be. I know who it is. Tayfur Bingöl.
No. So, full context. I've never gotten this guy's shirt in all of my years as a Beşiktaş fan. I've always been critical. I've always been critical, but I felt like it's like a curse. I needed to get this done with. So indeed,
Necip. Oh, wow.
I felt like I had to do it, Plus, I didn't think I was gonna like this shirt very much. Actually, with the black undershirt, I kind of do.
I think it looks.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
I think it's the best one. I think this one looks best on him, honestly, because I think you're a little too skinny for the white one. Makes you look skinny. You're too skinny. You need to go to the gym, Sinan. But this one suits your, like, it accentuates your shoulders more, makes your shoulders look broader, and I think this one looks good on you, man. It really, and you know what? Seeing it live on you right now, the red doesn't bother me one bit, but on the pictures,
it's kind of a fun little detail.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this Necip jersey, it's like gonna exorcise our demons. That's my hope. And honestly, so like, I forgot there was a year when Emre Hugo was like, you should get the Necip, because I was trying to debate the third one. I was like, no, I'm never getting that clown. And then like we had a couple bad seasons. Like, you should have gotten that Necip. And in the back of my mind, there was always this like, I feel like if I don't get this Necip, this curse thing is gonna like last. So I got it. Hey
man, I got 2 Weghorst shirts here somewhere. That's like, in hindsight, it's like, he played for 6 months, like, so
it's memorable. Yeah, that's right.
Necip, like Necip, Atiba, like those types of names you can't go wrong with. Sivok back in the day, you played for us for like 6 years. Those types of names, those are good shouts.
Exactly.
Good shouts. Let's see. So we talked about the save of the season. We talked about the match of the season. You guys talked about the match of the season. I'm gonna go with a different one.
Actually, no, I haven't yet, Con. I didn't answer yet.
Didn't you?
No. So the Super Cup was not my answer.
Oh, it was not.
I was saying that was a contender.
Oh, you're cheating again.
My actual choice was Athletic Club.
Man.
And so. Okay, so Con, if you want, I can take Lyon, because I was thinking maybe you should pick Lyon as the more important one, because at that point, winning that made us feel like we're going through.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whereas Athletic Club, it was kind of like, it still felt like we had a mountain to climb even after we won. So, like, after we beat Lyon,
they were both lifelines,
it sort of felt like we're doing this, like we're going through.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always a little late to respond.
For me, it's Athletic, because I think it was the strongest team we faced.
Much more dominant victory.
It was the strongest team we faced, and I think we played a very good game. We dominated them for the vast majority of the match, and it was a very emphatic and deserved win. It was Ole's first game in charge, which is also, I think, important, because it could have so easily gone array, right? It could have gone it could have been a big loss. First game, he was there for what, like 3 days or something, and immediately I feel like we saw his hand in the team already. There was like, it wasn't just a lucky win, like Lyon was not lucky like it was lucky because we didn't concede.
I know what you mean though. Well, like, we kind of shithoused that.
Yeah, we kind of shithoused that. We
like Felix
held out.
was our hero, right?
Yeah. And against Athletic, I really felt like, okay, you could immediately see the changes that he made already, and that is also one of the reasons for me that I'm completely Team Ole right now. And for me, there were just so many things we saw, signs that we saw in that game that he can put his hand on the team. And one of the things I've lacked from coaches in the last couple of years is that it doesn't matter, new coach comes in and still it seems like the same old husk of a team, still no plan behind it, still no idea. And despite the fact that we definitely had lots of ups and downs under Ole, the one thing I have to give him credit for is that I always felt in every game, even the bad matches, I never asked myself, what are we even playing at? And I feel like the last 4 years, I asked myself that question almost every game. Like, what's even the game plan? What is our plan? Like, long ball, long ball, long ball, long ball. And with Ole, I feel like you always at least had the idea of there's a plan here. It maybe
we're trying something.
Yeah, exactly.
Here,
and maybe we're not executing it properly and all that kind of stuff. And also he experimented, he tried new things. He wasn't always trying the same thing and kept failing. If something didn't work, he tried new things the next game, maybe even the same game. So I think Athletic, for that reason, and also just I think it's one of those games that together with the Super Cup, I think 5 years from now, I still think those two matches will be remembered. Heck, we beat Athletic Club 3-1 20 years ago, and that game is still remembered. And I think this Athletic Club game is one of those that kids who are now like 6-7 years old, in like 10 years time, they'll be watching highlights of that match because the atmosphere was amazing, the game was great, and we won emphatically. It was a star-making performance again for Rafa as well. We got 2 assists and a goal. So I think it's one of those games that will be memorable. So for me, it's Athletic Club. And for you as well, apparently.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think we're going to agree unanimously on the next.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to point out that I think the Bilbao game and the Galatasaray game are certainly the best results of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the best football we played is in like
Lugano.
In terms of like chance creation and stuff like that was against Lugano.
Yeah, but
at the same time,
but it's also the level.
The level
exactly, and then that I think against Athletic we created a decent amount of chances as well, and it's a much better opponent. So for me, the football that we played against them, I think we played a good game against them as well. Good football. I mean, some of those passes that we were giving for those deep balls to get in behind and trouble them were amazing as well. Jetson had like 1 or 2 amazing passes in that game. So
Musrati was brilliant.
Yeah, Musrati. Yeah, that was the height of his season.
I think Musrati was created 2 of the goals. Mm-hmm. They started with his passes, the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his assist, but he was like a pre-assist.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Attacks starting his passes.
All right, let us know in the comments what your match of the season is, and let's also let us know what your low point of the season is. I see. I'm going to start with you, and I do agree. I've mentioned so many times this season. Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's forget about it. But I think we have to talk about it one last time.
We keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the low points.
Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Maccabi Tel Aviv. I don't even let's not even get into the politics. It's almost too obvious how it hurt everybody and why it was such a low point. Obviously, just the footballing perspective, they're not a good team, and they blew us out, and we got robbed of. I mean, even going into the match, it was already a negative experience because we got a home match taken away from us.
Yeah.
And people just it's so easy to look past how much money you earn from filling your stadium and earning that money like in concessions and all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a fucking blatant highway robbery. I'm disgusted, and I'm proud that I'm highlighting something that's not even political right now, because you all know my bent on that. But just from the UEFA perspective, from the sporting perspective, it was bullshit, and it hurt so badly. And what's worse is we didn't deserve to get rocked the way we did. They really kind of used every chance they had to score, whereas we wasted so many. We were terrible.
We were, but if we scored that penalty, I think we beat them.
That's true. And that's exactly right.
Because they weren't good. Like, we were just really, really fucking bad. And that was literally the low point of our season. Like, everything came together. Like, that was our worst form of the season. That was like literally on all fronts, I think, our worst point. So I don't know if you even, like, Gatel, do you agree with this? Or is it unanimous?
Yeah, I agree, man. It has to be, man. And that was the culmination of the collapse of the Hassan Arif administration as well.
Yeah.
Where we had the players' wages not being paid for 2 months. The board members supposedly getting involved in the coach's business. Sami Taibaba.
Yeah.
Fucking up the atmosphere in Romania.
Yeah.
Also messing with the coach's business, as far as we're aware. It was a really bad time, man. It was a time where the president, I think, who understandably wasn't there. He was going through what we believe to be cancer treatment. But it was just everyone else that was involved just kind of ran riot, and it turned into a complete shit show. Players not getting paid. That reflected on the on-field performance. It sabotaged, I think, a coach that had great potential to be a long-standing coach with us. So yeah, it was a really, really sad, heartbreaking moment, because we had such a nice start to the season. One full of hope, and quite a few games where we played brilliant football. If we beat Antep on match day 7, I believe it was.
I was going to say special shouts that
if we beat them in match day 7, it was the best start to a league campaign since Lucescu's start in 2003-04. And now we lost that. We lost 2 points in that game in the final minute. We were so close to making it the best league start in over 2 decades. Yeah. So
I was going to say, because Con, remember we used to bust on
the fact that we went from there to the board collapsing, wages not being paid for 2 months, the team collapsing in such a short period of time. That was heartbreaking. That took me a while to get over that mentally as well. I'm not going to lie. I know that sounds sad, man. I'm allowing football affect me like that, but
no.
I'm not going to say I was fucking like it properly like affected my life, but I was upset about it, you know, because I love this club. So when we started with that hope, and then
got snatched away. Yeah,
snatched away, and it goes so horribly wrong. It did really upset me. I think it impacted us all a wee bit mentally as well. Obviously not something like a big serious thing happening in our personal lives, but I think it did upset us all what happened, because we love this club so much.
I mean, Maccabi
Kartal, that Gaziantep match scarred you for months.
It did,
I remember Con and I were kind of giving you a hard time.
Yeah, we're like, get over it, man. Like, come on. Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, man. These things happen, and they do. But the Maccabi thing, like, I mean,
also,
go ahead, Tim.
Maccabi was the low.
That was the low.
But I mean, honorable mention to the Ajax match, where things suddenly looked terrible. And Umar Farouk made a good mention, the Adana Demir match.
Oh, yeah.
Konya was bad. Was that the match where we were
nine against 11?
9 v 11.
Up 2 men, that's right.
Yeah.
And shouts to Snoop.
For the first time in history, we lost a game vs 10 men, and then the next game we lost a game vs 9 men.
Against Adana. Against Adana was 10 men as well. And then against Konya was 9, so it was really, really bad run. But it all got started with that Maccabi thing that really derailed us completely. And just the entire, like, don't have to reiterate it, but like, what, Katel summed it up greatly. Let's move on then to where'd Katel go? Let's move on.
1 second. So wait, honorable mention to Snoo, and I'll just tackle this comment
Sure.
now because it's relevant. He
Yeah.
said, "You know what? I want to say Rize lost right before the season end. The loss against Rize right before the season's ending. I know we had tons of lows before that match, but at the end we were like, okay, whatever. At least we're third now, and then we lost it. Yeah, that was. I mean, it's a good shout. It's a good. For me, it's always going to be Maccabi Tel Aviv. But
it's a great shout.
Good
There's a plethora of great choices for low points of the season. Unfortunately, there's also there's also a lot of choices for highlights. The Cup win, the Athletic Club game, the Lyon game, the Fener games, both of them, the Galatasaray win at home. So there's also those. We have those as well, but the low points, I think, far outweigh the highlights, even though there was a couple of great highlights. But that's just, the season we had. We didn't have a good season. All right, let's move on then to the next point.
The meme.
Yeah, the meme or social media moment of the season. I'm going to start with Kartal here. Meme or social media moment of the season, Kartal. Personally, I think it can only be one.
Yeah, I think it has to be the Davinson Sanchez just slide it on the deck. On the deck means on the ground, looking back at Rafa without zero hope.
Yeah, has to.
I have two more candidates.
Yeah, go ahead, Sinan.
I mean, you're right. That's the moment. But I have two fun candidates. One would be the Masuaku flowers moment, when the kid comes out and gives him flowers, and then he puts in like his best shift in a Beşiktaş shirt for the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, very true.
And then of course
6 months.
And I mean, this is a true meme moment in terms of like we became a meme, but the boxing match in Congress probably deserves some kind of mention here.
Tevfik Yaman having a swing at former President Hassan Arad is what Sinan here is referring to, for those of you who maybe aren't aware of it. But I agree with Kartal, and I think you agree as well, Sinan.
Same.
Rafa Silva sending Davinson Sanchez to the cleaners, and the countless memes and videos that were made on it. That's the social media moment of the season by far. All right, then our next segment is going to be the marry, fuck, kill, keep, bench, or loan/sell. And we're gonna go over the squad. And we're gonna do this pretty rapid fire, guys. There's gonna, of course, be a couple of names that we're going to want to expand on, like Ciro Immobile, for example. But for the most part, I think we can be relatively brief. So let's start with Ersin Destanoglu. Sinan, for you, what is Ersin's role in the team, if any, next season?
Oh, man. I think it's sell if you can get something, loan, ideally with like a favorable option, but yeah, I think his time has come. He's got to go play. He's got to play somewhere.
Kartal, what about you?
For me, so.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Ersin, also, when he plays, I mean, the guy gets booed at this point. What's the point of keeping him around?
Yeah.
Let him go, spread his wings. He's still young. He's, 23, 24 years old. For me, this is a definite kill in the sense of loan or sell. I would say sell. I don't even want to loan him. I think he just needs a complete fresh start, and I don't think that should include having to go back somewhere that he probably doesn't want to be anymore. So let's let Ersin move, spread his wings, and fly away. Mert Gunok is the next one. Kartal, I'm gonna hand the microphone over to you for this one, and you can reiterate that point that you were making earlier, perhaps about pushing it back another year.
Yeah, Mert is Asian, so maybe it'd be ideal to sign someone else, but for just now, I think we should keep him as the starting goalkeeper. We've got too much in the squad we need to change already, so I don't think there's a rush to go and get a number one. Maybe we could look at getting a backup keeper, but I think Göktuğ and
Emir.
maybe Emir, is it Emir or Emin Yaşar?
Emir
Yaşar.
I think those two should be enough to back him up just now.
Yeah.
So I think just keep Mert.
Yeah. And push it another season down the road, ideally. Hopefully he has another good season, and but we do need to start thinking about his successor, of course. And there's potential candidates in Turkey. I'm not a big fan of a Turkish goalkeeper, but Eyüp Spor's goalkeeper Berke Özer, who of course played for Fener. He is a potential option, but I think if you bring him, you need to play him, and then you need to move Mert as the backup. So what do you think, Sinan? Mert, keep him or bench him? Play him or bench him, or move him on?
I mean, it's hard because, like, I think ideally you're bringing in someone who could at least threaten him for that
challenge
role,
him,
right?
Yeah.
But we're not living in the ideal world.
No.
I mean, but this is sort of a thought exercise that we're supposed to be doing the ideal stuff. So yeah, ideally, I think I would be bringing in somebody who would be challenging, but he'd be kept for at least, benching, mentorship, all of that. So yeah. Keep, but asterisk.
I 100% agree with that. I also think he should be allowed to, like, he's getting to those twilight years, and I don't know, maybe he wants to keep going until he's 40. But if he's if his idea is one or two more years, or maybe 3, he could be our second goalkeeper. I think having an experienced goalkeeper on the bench is always a good thing. So for me, ideally it's bench and you bring in a new, young, hungry goalkeeper. But realistically, I think he stays the number 1 for another season, and then hopefully next summer. Let's hope that all the signings we're going to make this summer are going to be hole-in-ones, are going to be successful signings.
That's right.
So that we don't have to bring in another striker next season. We don't have to bring in another winger and a midfielder and a central defender and blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. Let's hope that for once we can actually start building, and that the majority of those building blocks remain. And then we can start focusing on the other gaps in the team that need to be addressed, which is in the long-term goalkeeper. All right, I'm not going to mention Baytekin, Göktuğ and Emir Göktuğ, Baytekin and Emir Yaşar, because these are young kids. Ideally, maybe you loan one of them out, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. So let's move on to the defenders.
Real quick, my Football Manager file is in the year 2033, and Emir Yaşar is the national team goalkeeper. So for anyone who's plugged into the virtual world. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on to Jonas Svensson, who has an optional extension. There's interest in him. In an ideal world and realistically, Sinan, let me start with you. In an ideal world and realistically, what would you do with Svensson?
Keep.
In an ideal world or realistically?
Realistically, that's the key.
Yeah.
Ideally, I think you'd bring in someone who would take that starting role and maybe still keep him, right? Since we can have 14 players, you're going to have at least like 4 or 5 foreigners on the bench. He seems good enough that you'd want, because you need depth, and that's someone you don't want to just necessarily give away. Yeah. So I would hate to see us, do one of these like cut rate, like get rid of him because he's a foreign player and not make any money. Like, I don't think he deserves that treatment, and I don't think he's a hole in the squad to the extent that other parts, like Masuaku's gone, so like that's not even optional, right? Like, we need a left back. So yeah. I mean, I'd keep him for at least a bench role, I suppose. Yeah.
And what about you, Cathal? I already know the answer to this one.
I'd sell him. And actually, there's no option. His contract's till next year. So he's got another year left. He's got another year left on his deal. So there's 2 possibilities. Either the fact that there was an option was bullshit, or his contract was till the end of next year.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you look online on the TFF website, it shows this contract runs up until next year.
Yeah, it's very true.
So he's still a player for the next year.
So you would sell him then?
I'd sell him, yeah. If there's interest, sell him, bring in a different right back.
Yeah. Okay. And is that a realistic or ideal world situation?
I think it's realistic as well, especially if they're suitors, man. Like, if teams want him, and it's not going to be a matter of you need to pay him out.
Yeah.
Your teams want him? Is that?
Oh yeah.
Happening?
PSV are rumored to be interested, and some Turkish clubs, Super League clubs, want him, and so apparently some other Dutch clubs want him as well. But PSV is among the clubs that are potentially interested in him. And of course, I think PSV, they don't have the issue where they don't have a foreign limit. So for me personally, I agree with you, Sinan. He's somebody I would keep. because I think he's a good backup. In an ideal world, you bring in a young, hungry right back foreigner, preferably, because I don't see one in the Turkish football landscape right now. I know Taha Şahin from Rizespor is being mentioned, but guys, we have paid millions and millions and millions on players that did okay at Sivasspor and Istanbulspor and I don't know what. I'm not going to put my eggs in Taha Şahin's basket. Even though he, performed well at Rizespor, but like I don't want to see us pay 3 million euros for a right back from Rizespor. I'm sorry. If we can get him like for $1 million or something, it's a different story. But their asking price is apparently 3 million, so you're probably gonna settle around 2.5. I think that's a lot of money for a right back from Rizespor, with all due respect. And in that scenario, I would prefer to keep Jonas Svensson as the backup. But the Turkish foreign limit is at play, and do you want to waste a backup spot on a foreign right back? And I think the answer there is no. So realistically, if we bring in a new right back and that's a foreigner, I think Svensson needs to go. And I love Svensson. I really, really like him a lot. I think he's a model professional. I think he's a good player, but he's not getting any younger. He's 32 years old.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm, of course.
So if you know that we're going to have 5 foreigners on the bench, guaranteed.
Yeah, well, why 5?
Why would a right back? No, and this is an honest but
why 5?
It's like an oversight on my end.
Why 5?
Well, because we're going to have Mert starting, so that's one Turkish starter.
Yeah, that's one, yeah.
Right, so you have 14, so you... Oh, sorry, 4, right, sorry. So that's 4.
You also need to remember, Sinan, two of them have to be 21 and under.
Yeah.
Right.
So really, we've only got 12 flexible foreigners.
Yeah, exactly. So Svensson is taking up,
so 2. So we have 2 guys on the bench that are foreign.
Yeah. Over the age of 20.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Svensson's taking up one of those spots. And I think one of them needs to be a striker. And
I agree.
So,
I think
we might be stuck with Cheetah. We might be stuck with Cheetah.
I think Chio will be moved on. But
I think, see if we can sign Mbolo as the number 2 striker. I think that's great business.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're going to bring Mbolo as the starting striker, I think that's bad business. Because with Mbolo's injury history, I don't think they can.
There's a gamble. It's a big gamble, and we can't afford to take a gamble again on the striker. The striker needs to be.
Do you not think if you can get him as your backup though, that's great business if he's on a reasonable?
100%. I'd be 100% in favor for something like that because I've seen him come off the bench for Switzerland and have an impact. He's one of those players that can come off the bench and really change a game. So, I would be in favor for in that scenario. All right. The next one is Gabriel Paulista. And I'm going to start with you, Carta. Gabriel Paulista, realistically... Yeah? Realistically?
Yeah, I want to sell. Apparently, there's suitors in Brazil, so if Corinthians want him, he can pay us 1 or 2 million. I like Gabriel Paulista as a player, but he's unreliable. Man had 2 big injuries, missed most of the season.
But do you think he realistically? Do you think you can get a transfer fee for him, given the fact that he's
even if it's free, I'll still sell.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I agree, but I think realistically, it'll probably be tough getting. Like I was talking about this earlier, how I think it's great that Adala puts his foot down, even if it's only for like 300,000 euros or whatever. I think. It's different though when you're talking about a player who's making 3 million a year. Like, I think if you can offload that guy without having to pay him anything, having said that, he is a great player when he plays. So, Sinan, I know you like him. What do you think? Should he, if we have the opportunity to move him on, or would you like to see him stay for another season?
I mean, I think he's got to go. Especially since now that foreigners on the bench number has dwindled. Yeah, I think he's got to go.
All right.
It's unfortunate. He's good enough, but he's not durable enough.
All right, and Onur Bulut is gone already, so hurrah! Tayyip Talha Sanuc is the next one. Let's start with you then, Sinan.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
Let's just move on to the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I mentioned it. Kasim Pasha want him, but again, they only
They want us to pay a portion of
they
his
want
salary.
exactly.
Sardar don't say no, you need to pay all of it.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Which is great.
I'm
Yeah,
happy he's doing that.
and that's how it should be as well. He should be moved on. I 100% agree there. And so far, the signs in the media, at least, and you don't know how much you can trust them. Sinan said it the other day in our WhatsApp community. I trust all of them quite as far as I can throw them, and that's the right thing to say, I think. But Onu's been moved on. Tayyip, I think it looks like. I feel like in the past we would have kept him because we would feel bad about his injury and about the back-to-back red cards, and we want to give him a chance to redeem himself. But I kind of feel like this season, and I wasn't really expecting this because I was kind of worried that Ole would be like, oh, but this is a nice guy and this is a nice guy and blah, and blah, and blah. But it does look like a lot of the players that we all, I think, would put on the K list. It seems like we're looking to move a lot of those players on, and Tayyip Ta is one of them.
They're out of here, yeah.
Felix Urukai, then the man on the back of Sinan's white shirt, right? Was it the white shirt?
Yeah,
Right.
and it looks great, man.
Felix Urukai.
I'm keeping him.
Felix Urukai.
This is my
Yeah.
Keep.
Felix Urukai, keep. What do you say? You say keep as well? I say keep as well because I think he's the best defender we have on the team right now. And the hate that he gets on social media is ridiculous. The only worry I have with Felix, and I know Kartal shares this worry, is injuries. That's the only worry I have with him. I think other than that, he's a very good defender and he should stay.
Very good.
Then we have Necip Uysal, and I think this one's going to be unpopular in the live chat, but I'm going to start with this one if you don't mind, guys, because I want to take the blunt of the force here. For me, and I know it won't happen, because this is one of those players that we're going to keep because of emotional stuff. But for me, Necip is one of the players that should be moved on. He should probably have been moved on a couple of years ago. But especially after the injury. And I know this is ruthless. This is like, you don't do this to a club legend, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see him having much of a added value on the pitch. Off the pitch, yes. I think if you would say, okay, Necip, we don't want you as a player anymore, but you can become part of the staff, I'd be 100% for that. That's no problem. But I think as a player, for me, I would like to see Necip move on. Sina, I'm going to let you...
Kartal, you
Oh,
first.
Kartal, okay.
Kartal first.
I just keep man just because of who he is.
And
And I've heard great things about him as well as a person. Apparently he's a really good guy.
Is that enough to play for Beşiktaş though?
It's not, man, but he's not going to play anyway. He's going to be there as a mentor. In an ideal situation, he maybe plays a couple of games in the cup as a sub, perhaps, not even as a starter, and that's it. But I think you keep a guy like that just to be a mentor and to instill the club values into the youth players and the new players coming in. I think there's value in that. You don't need every player to be a huge contributor on the pitch.
Yeah.
If they can improve the level of the training sessions and they can be a good mentor as well in the locker room, I think that's it. Especially if it's a low salary like Necip's, that's enough to stay. And he's just signed a new deal, so I think obviously you said sell, but the guy's just signed a new deal. So
I know. It's that this is in my world. This is ideal scenario where you can revamp the entire squad. I don't think he should have a place in that as a player. But realistically,
I was gonna say, this is my final take. If his true value is just literally as a role model or as a locker room presence or whatever, I feel like we could pay him a lot less.
Yeah.
And in a way that doesn't affect the club's intake and financial fair play by just making him a coach, right? Like that kind of keeps him around and makes so that there's no negative, right? Because I don't know, man.
Yeah, and
it's a bit of a waste.
And it's another one of those things. Like, I think you give him a chance to become a coach and you let him see how he does in the youth. But I think it's one of those things where you also don't keep him around if he's a bad coach, if he turns out to be a mediocre coach.
Exactly.
Like, for example, Sedat Topraktepe never did anything special with the youth team. Like, if you look at what Velik Kavlak is doing right now, he's doing a much better job with the under-19s than Sedar ever did. So for me, it's like, why do we keep mediocre people in these positions, which are pivotal because they shape the future of the club, because they're working with your academy players? And it's just one of those things where I think you end up with Samet Aybaba situations where you keep...
I was about to say, exactly,
you keep people at the club because of who they were and all that
Their
kind
name.
of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it's about competency and not about who they are. And of course, if Najib adds enough, and he, if his personality, his presence is really influential, but I kind of question that because I know, especially for foreign players, like it's one of those things where Sedat Topraktepe, when people came in, when Gio came in and all that kind of stuff, they were told, "Oh, he's a legend. He's a legend." He's not, Sedat Topraktepe is not a legend, But that was what they were told, and I think that's kind of the same thing that. When Rafa Silva comes in, this is our captain. He's a legend. And then the first couple of training sessions, Rafa Silva sees.
You're like,
Rafa Silva probably
really?
thinks, is this a legend here? I think it also kind of
Is this the standard?
Yeah, I think it kind of devalues it a little bit as well. Like, I think it's a dangerous game because yes, the young Turkish players will respect him. I don't know if the foreigners necessarily will, because at the end of the day...
I've been told that he's a top guy.
I'm sure he is, but being a top guy in football, what earns you...
You can't communicate with either.
Like, for example, Quaresma, I think a lot of people probably didn't like him, but everyone respected him, And because at the end of the day, in football, game respects game, right? Anyway, let's move on to Bakhtiar Zainutdinov, one of your favorites, Sinan. And mine too, admit.
Fuck.
So,
you know what? I would say while he's on the contract that he's on, where he doesn't count as a foreigner. No, actually, I take it back. If we can get money, so.
Yeah.
If we can get money, so.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But if we can't get money, I guess it's not terrible to have him as a deputy.
There were offers.
He's always injured though, so he's useless.
There were supposedly offers up to.
But that's not true, Cartel. He's not always he has been injured for a while, but before then he was never injured. Really.
No, that's not true.
He was injured a lot last year as well.
Yeah, he had some injury.
But not
he already had injury issues at
right?
CSKA Moscow. He had injury issues as well there. He's kind of he's injury prone for sure.
I mean, this year his season was definitely marked by injury, but I don't really remember.
Mm-hmm. He was injured a couple of times the year before as well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
maybe short term then.
He was. Last season, supposedly there were offers of $7 million for him from Russia, but he didn't want to go back. I think if now there's offers anywhere near that, I think you need to sell him ASAP.
Yeah. You can get money for him.
This guy, his contract expired already, but I'm still gonna mention him anyway. Artur Masuaku. Do you offer him a new contract, Sinan?
I would have, honestly. I know that's not popular around here, but I would have.
Yeah. Cartel, I know your answer already, but...
I don't. You don't know what Masuaku you're going to get. It's too big of a risk.
Yeah.
But do you know what you're going to get now?
But see, the thing is, Sinan, we've hired these professional guys in to help with the squad building, or even do the squad building, is what Sardar says. So if we're not going to trust these guys to find a good left back, then we're fucked.
Yeah, sure. But Cartel, think of it like this.
Think of it like guys to build the squad.
Sure. Yeah, and I do even, but just think of it in that, their task is to prioritize the things we need most. We need a striker, we need creativity.
Yeah, but now we need a left back as well, right?
The midfield. We need a left back. But I just mean once you keep adding to that list all of these sort of existential needs, suddenly you're talking about having to spend big money on each of these positions. Whereas having Masuaku would have provided you with the opportunity to say, let's spend slightly less on this position, but bring in a younger guy with a lot of talent who could threaten him for that position. Right now, you're almost locked into having to spend big money on a position that was, whether you like it or not, he was a top 5 player for us this season. And that might be because everyone below 3 was, for the most part, either mediocre or shit. But
I mean, I think Masuaku really should have been replaced last year. Never mind this year. So we needed a left back last year as well, and
in the summer.
We didn't sign one. We need one again this year. Look, you don't know what you're going to get, man. Like, you don't know if he's going to stink up and cost you several games, or you don't know or you could get the Masuaku that we know is a very good football player. So it's a risk, man. I don't think it's worth taking that gamble again. I'd rather sign someone else. And what you're saying as well about signing a younger guy, again, do you really want 2 foreign left backs?
If he's under,
I mean, he wouldn't.
If he's 21 or something, you could get.
I mean, if you want to use that's a possibility. But really, I think we need to move him on, man. We need to.
Yeah.
Like Masuaku, can you literally refer to this guy as a rotten apple in the first half of the season?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Cartel, let me put it this way:
if you keep bringing in fresh apples into the batch of the rotten apples, what happens?
Yeah, but I think he wasn't like a rotten apple, like a locker room cancer. I mean, we never heard any stories of that. I mean, look, even when guys were Kader Adichie, he wasn't among that group. So, I think that's going too far. And I mean, look, fundamentally, here's the thing, Cartel. Even the best scout, right? Like, if you have to hit 4 home runs in a row, which we do, right? Because we have 4 massive holes in the starting lineup.
7, 8.
What are the odds? I mean, but massive, right? That's maybe semantic, right? There are big holes and small holes, but then there's massive ones. And so those are the ones where you have to hit a home run, right? You can hit like a triple or a double or a single on some of the smaller holes, but like you need 4 starters in these positions now that are gonna elevate the whole squad. And I feel like that's almost in a way like setting up the scouting team for failure, because it's like, how many people hit 4 home runs in a row, right? You're gonna maybe make 1 mistake or even 2 out of 4, right? And it's not even like a bad track record, but in the position we're in, right? As Ole himself said, we can't afford to make mistakes. And now we've just sort of provided ourselves with a platform to make a mistake.
I think deciding Masuaku would be a mistake, because you risk him jeopardising your season again.
I think you could argue that wouldn't be a mistake made by this board. That's them doing with the squad what they can to sort of make things work for them.
One of the biggest
sort of set
issues
up
in my head as well is that we have a deadline for our first European qualifier, which we haven't talked about yet, but we're playing, most likely, we're playing Shakhtar Donetsk. It's not 100% sure yet because they still have to play qualifiers themselves, but we probably will play Shakhtar Donetsk, and the 18th of July, we have to submit our UEFA list. So that means we have to have a left back signed by the 18th of July. And for me, I'm of 2 minds on this. If we get a proper left back signed on time, not just by the 18th, preferably like 10 or so days earlier, so he's been able to train with the team and play some friendlies, then I'm 100% fine with us moving on from Artur Masuaku, because I agree with you, Katla. We've already kind of pushed that down the road last year. But if we are starting that first game with somebody we're going to talk about in a little bit here, Emrecan Terzi at left back or Emirhan Topçu at left back against likely Shakhtar Donetsk, that is unacceptable. So yes, we should move on from Masuaku, in my opinion. But they need to move quickly. They can't afford to lose time. If we bring in a left back in August, that's too fucking late. He has to be.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we need signings now, man. Like, not tomorrow.
Well,
we need them now.
As long as that's not 100% true, because as long as the team is not training yet, which starts on the 1st of July.
I mean, of course, I'm just trying to create a sense of urgency. I know what you mean. Obviously, if they're signed before the camp starts, brilliant. But I'm just trying to create a sense of urgency. We need to get moving.
Yes. But
we can't see like news coming out yesterday saying, it's Yaz Sabunjolo saying we've just started negotiations with a star winger. See,
I don't think he said just. Did he say
now,
just?
Does that not show that maybe?
I don't think that's how he said it. I think he
said the Hachok Tazi, which means it's very fresh. That means it's just that makes you think that it's just started. If it's something's fresh, it's new.
Well, maybe he found out. Anyway. So, let us know in the comments, guys. Masuaku. Next one is one of the people that Yiche was asking about. Emirhan Topçu. I'm going to start on this. For me, Emirhan is a 100% a keep, but he's a bench in my opinion. Yeah. But he's somebody that you will probably play. You will play plenty of games, 30 plus matches easily, I think. But for me, in an ideal world, Felix is your starting left center back. Paulista gets moved on, and we bring in a new right center back, and they are the pair. And whenever Felix is unavailable, or when whoever that right center back is unavailable, you get Emirhan, and Emirhan will probably play plenty of minutes. But for me, Emirhan 100% a keeper, but he still needs to develop further and become better. I already like him a lot, but he still has margin for improvement, and you guys seem to agree with that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Ken. I think Emirhan's a very, very good defender and is going to be a great defender, but his positional awareness still needs work. Mm-hmm. We noticed that he cost us quite a few goals this past season, just kind of losing his position, maybe being a bit too tenacious, a bit too carried away, a bit too excited. Kind of leaving the line, pressing up too high, leaving space in behind. We saw a lot of that from last season, but in general, I thought it was a very, very good performance from him in terms of his tackling ability and stuff like that, and his fundamentals as a defender. Other than that, his positional awareness, I think, are very, very good. And I think if he just gets a bit more, I'd say a bit more discipline, man, because I think it's that youthful excitement, I think, that causes a lot of the mistakes. Just being a bit too overexcited, I think that's the main reason for that. So when he adds a bit more maturity to his game and gets a bit more disciplined, I think he could be our centre back for the next 10 years, man, considering you can play as a centre back until your late 30s. So just now, he's only 23, 24?
24, yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if he's the centre back for the next 10 years, man.
All right, Sinan, what about you?
Yeah.
Or the left centre back.
I basically agree with everything said. I mean, I feel like he still needs to prove that he can make those small adjustments and improvements before we can sort of pencil him in as the centre back for the next 10 years. But I certainly hope that does happen. Yeah. And I think he has enough sort of physical talent to do it. I will say that the prospect, when you guys said that we're talking about selling Felix, that scares the shit out of me. Because I think that
it just says there's interest. I've not seen anything about it. They were thinking.
I hope we don't do it. Yeah, I just hope we don't. And the reason I say that is because that would make what is for the first time in a long time a strength suddenly a huge weakness, right? And we go from being like, finally we have not just a good central back, but a good guy to bring in if he's injured or if he gets carded, yellow card, you want to be safe, whatever, right? Like you have that depth and that variability, and they even bring kind of different attitudes to the game, so you could play them in different matches depending. And suddenly it goes to like you're putting a lot of pressure on this kid to show growth immediately, and he has to be good enough now. And it's like, that's
it's probably the only position in the team that we actually have the luxury in where we are like, okay, we don't have to worry about left center back.
And he's Turkish, right?
Like, exactly. Yeah. I also would like to add to
number 10 as well.
I would like to add to that as well that the gold standard in the Turkish league for a Turkish central back. I know Sinan won't agree with this, and I don't agree with it personally either. But like Abdülkadir Bardakçı is seen as the be all end all when it comes to Turkish center defenders who play in the Super League. I'd like to remind people until he was 26, 27, he was still playing for Konyaspor. So like Emirhan is, I think he just turned 24, I think, so he has time to develop into a better player. Definitely. So next one on the list is Emrecan Terzi. Sinan, what do you do with him? You keep him, you sell him, you loan him, you play him?
I feel like we have to keep him on the bench as depth. Ideally, we would be loaning him out and he'd be playing regularly the entire season. But I think just given where we are now, where we have to bring in a starter, I think we're kind of locked into needing a Turkish left back as as depth. So I think we're kind of stuck with him for depth.
For me,
how about you give Poyraz a chance as the sub left back and loan out Emrecan?
Yeah, but that's
I didn't like
that's a
Poyraz
big
2 years ago. He's granted it's been
that's
2
a
years
really
and he
big
could have been out
gamble
the
though,
last,
right?
but-
We've seen Emre Can.
Huge
Apparently,
gamble,
Poyraz I've heard he's better. Than
Yeah,
Emre.
but how many times do we hear like, oh, this youth player is good, this youth like what was his name? I forget. The guy we gave to Alanyaspor, he was supposedly better than Ridvan as well. What was his name again?
I mean, guys, we
Ahmed Gulay.
Ahmed G.
Yeah, he was better than Ridvan, right? Like that's what people were saying. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't put any stock into that kind of stuff, man. You need to be careful with that because if you're gonna
but also
form a squad based on that.
what you hear in rumors, and also just remember, we went into a season with Semi Kilic, who'd proven that he was good and didn't get players in that position banking on him, and then that failed collapsively. So I think going in, relying on someone in a key depth position, knowing even less is especially not a good idea. I would say.
Emre Can is 21, by the way. He will be 22 in January, this coming January. He's from 2004. So for me, he's like kind of like I talked about it in the past with Fatih Aksoy. For me, Emre Can is one of those players. I don't know. You can loan him out for a couple of seasons and maybe he becomes a lot better than he is right now. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, right now we need to bring in a new left back. I think asking us to bring in 2 new left backs is a tall order. Poyraz, depending on that, I think is very risky. So I would keep Emre Can for this season and see maybe, man. Like for me, it's a bench.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, I'm gonna skip. Then let's go to Amir Hadjametovic. Sell for Kartal. What about you, Sinan?
Yeah. If he was Turkish, I'd keep him.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, 100% agree. For me, it's a sell as well. Salih Uçan, then he is Turkish.
Oh fuck. But he.
I think I was harsh on Artur Masuaku for calling him a rotten apple, but I kind of feel like it applies here.
Salih might be.
Not because
the right
I'm
man
sure
to
Salih is a great guy, but like I've heard he's not a great trainer. He doesn't work very hard. He is supposed to be an example for the youth coming through for the academy product. He should be giving the right example. He's 30. How old is Salih? He's 31, I think. 31 years old. He'll be 32 in January. So he'll be.
I mean, dude, if you can get 350K for Onur Bulut, we gotta be able to get like 500K for Salih, right? Like, get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Yeah,
that's it.
What about you,
That's it.
Kartal? What's your vote on Salih?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should try and offload him, man, especially with Kartal Kaira coming back and potentially it seems like Demirege's buyout clause wasn't used by Rio Ave, so if we're not going to sell him to another club, then he's going to probably stay around as well. So I think you want to make space for those two. So I think you need to move Salih on.
Okay. So we all agree Salih is a sell. Then let's talk about this one because he's not in this list. So it's good that you remind me of it. Let's talk about this. Demir Ege Tiknas. Kartal, I'm going to start with you. What would you do? Would you keep him? Or would you sell him? Or would you play?
I'd sell. I'd sell.
Yeah. What about you, Sinan?
I think his stock's very high just now. So if we can get a decent transfer fee for him, I think it's a huge win for us because he's the type of profile that our fans aren't too keen on. So I think it's best to move on.
I think he's too similar to Musrati in many ways. And people will... People want a destroyer. They want a number 6, like a beast number 6 that wins balls, that fights, that dominates. That's not Demirege. Demirege is more like a playmaking number 6. So sorry, Sinan. What's your opinion on this?
No, I agree. I think we gotta sell him. I mean, there's a part of you that's like maybe you could loan him out with a hefty option to buy. If you really like. You're banking on him. You
could maybe get
but like, what if he doesn't?
Yeah, you could maybe loan him with like 15 million option to buy. But if you're able to get 8 or 9 million now, I feel like you take the cash. And if he then
because there's a risk that then he doesn't play well again.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he goes somewhere and he does amazing and he gets sold for 40 million. But I think honestly, like for us, if we can get 8, 9, 10 million for him right now, I think that is amazing money for a player that,
Yeah.
you know, I think he has a higher ceiling, but like I don't think at Beşiktaş right now, like I don't know. I think it's tough. And a lot of fans are like fantasy booking him into their sides right now, but I think those same fans will be the ones who are like, oh, well, he doesn't have any physicality. Oh, he can't run.
Well, and that's kind of right. Like that's what makes him kind of an interesting player too. Is he's got the frame and the size to be a big physical bruiser, but
he has the size, but not the frame.
Thin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sorry, not the frame. He's got the height.
Yeah.
I mean, rather.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's thin and he's oddly technical on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So like his skill
Very
set
technical.
doesn't match what you'd expect out of him.
Yeah.
He's kind of lanky,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, so he's a question mark for me. In a lot
I
of
think
ways, but
honestly, Sinan, he
Yeah, I think
kind
you gotta make
I
money
think
if you
he
can.
kind of has like a similar physique to you.
yeah, he does. He really does, which is kind of weird. Like, and I don't know. I always felt like I had to be a striker. I wanted to be a winger, but as I got taller and taller, it's hard to move around when you're that big, man.
Yeah.
Like you have to carry more weight, and you're lanky and kind of awkward moving. I don't know. It's being tall has some negative aspects. Anyway, moving
Yeah,
on.
let's move on
I think we all
to
agreed on
the
that.
next one. Will be easy. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Sinan. That's a definite unanimous decision, I think. Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Get out
Get
of
him outta
here.
here.
Gaston, you agree?
Yeah.
In an ideal world, we'd be able to sell him, but I think realistically, if we can pay him maybe $1 million, $1.5 million to go, I think that would be good.
God, I
and
hate that.
we just need to get rid of him. But I think, you know, because of the fact that Ole did play him, I think
Yeah, he helped
I think we are able to save ourselves money. I think otherwise we would have been in a situation where we have to pay him the full 3. And now I think you're in a situation where maybe you can get away with paying him just $1 million or something like that, or 1.5. I saw a rumor earlier today suggesting $1,250,000. I think if you can get out of his contract for $1,250,000, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. All right, next one. Again,
not at all.
an easy, unanimous one, I think. Rafa Silva. Cartal.
Deep.
Cheap.
Yeah. That's
Build a statue.
he's
First man on
Is there-
the team sheet.
yeah, he's
Is there a build a statue option?
not yet. I think it's a little early for that.
Yeah.
Then
I know.
Then Fari Kerem I know I usually kind of skip over the youth players, but this one's an interesting one, I think. Fari Kerem because I do see a lot of potential in him. Sina, what would you...
Loan him out.
I'd loan him. I would loan him if we could.
Yeah.
If we could get a good loan.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think he's one of those players, like, I think the ones where you don't see a lot of potential, like Emre Can, I think those are the ones you keep for depth. And I think the ones that you do see a lot of potential in, those are the ones that you have to loan out so that they can get those precious minutes and become better. So I 100% agree with you guys with loan. Then Elan Ricardo, probably in the same boat there with a loan for me.
Yep.
You guys agree?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, another loan. And then Jetson Fernandez, I'm going to let Cartel do his say. You already said a lot on it, but maybe quickly recap.
Sell. I think going off the reported offers, we're going to get as much as we're going to get for him.
Yeah.
I also think that in the majority of our games when we're playing against low blocks and not getting a lot of space, he's not the answer in that position for us. I think we need a different profile of number 8. One that's more gifted at passing the ball. So that's why I'd sell him. Obviously, if it was an ideal world and I had the luxury to keep him about and use him as a sub in those games and then have him a starter for the derbies and the European games, I would. But I think we're going to have to use that money that we get from his transfer to fund some of the deals we're making this summer.
Yeah. So and the
So
way
for me, so.
right now the way the money on him would be split would be 50% to Benfica. So let's say we sell him for 25 million. So 12.5 million would go to Benfica. Then from the remaining 12.5 million, there's we paid 6 for him, so there's 6.5 million profit. 20% of that would go to the banks. So 1.25 million would go to the banks, I think, roughly. So we would keep around 11 million euros. We would be able to keep around 11 million euros. So the question is, can you replace Jetson? Not only replace Jetson for 11 million euros, but can you maybe sign another player? So Sinan, what do you think? Is Jetson somebody you keep or you sell if the offer comes?
Oh, fuck. This is the hardest one, I think, honestly.
Yeah,
For me, it's
I
keep,
agree
and
with
I'll
you.
tell you why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
In principle, right? Like, so you're going to get 11 mil for Jedson, and we're already talking about getting, if not 11, real close to that for someone like Mucci.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. You're getting as much money for Jedson, who is like the second best player on our team, as you're getting for a guy who like could hardly crack the starting lineup for much of the season. Obviously, Mucci's younger. I mean, it's sort of apples and oranges in a way, but like it's not good business in that, right? Like you were saying, Cartel. So you take those 11 million, you're going to need that to make the other transfers, but now you're adding a hole in the squad that you're also going to have to replace. And are you going to be able to replace that spot for less than that? And fine, let's say yes.
I think you can.
Let's say you get a good.
You could pick up Mario Palicic on a free.
Yeah, but you can. But that would,
first of all, there's an if.
That not just that. That would come with you know, if you sign Mario Palicic on a free, Cartel, that's like €5 million signing fee. Probably 4.5 million a year. So you're spending more than you're making on Jetson, really.
I mean,
and you're giving yourself.
And he's 30 years.
Problem we have.
And he's 30 years old. So,
like, what if he ends up like an Ox, where you have like a $4 million contract, he gets injured, and then like
I mean, we don't know how much he's going to ask for. So I don't think it's like.
Well, again, but Cartel, that's the point, though. That's the point. There's too many ifs.
It could be on 2.5 million a year, for example.
Do you believe?
Cartel, what if he doesn't want to come to Beşiktaş?
Do you believe that?
What if he doesn't want to come to Beşiktaş? What if he wants to go somewhere else? Like, there's so many ifs, and like you can't use the ifs to your benefit when more
profile to play the majority of the games.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being,
the reason why we can't unlock. Like,
Cartel,
teams are 39 men.
Your logic requires all of these ifs. Like, what if you get a player who's free? What if? But like, there are far more ifs that go against making that move. Because like, what if Pasalic just decides he doesn't want to go to Beşiktaş? He wants to go somewhere else. What if the guy who we do get costs most of that 11 mil? Because like, look at Anguissa, right? Who would have been a theoretical replacement.
Yeah.
He costs more than we would be getting back for Jedson.
And he's older.
It's a net negative. You've lost money. He's older. You don't know if he's as good.
If you can sign, see, even if we sign a number 8 for the 11 million, right? And he's a profile that's more suitable for us in the majority of the games. I think that's worth it.
I think
because Jetson Fernandez outside those big games doesn't shine, man. He doesn't shine.
I don't think you can say it's worth it, because, and especially the word worth.
He's old. He is consistently the best performer, even in those games, man. It's not because
especially in the bigger games.
Yeah, but it's not because his passing game is like the work he does, like the ground he covers, the balls he wins, the tenacity. He always gives 100%. I really don't agree with that narrative of he is useless in the small matches. He really isn't. And we've seen other players, other profiles like like Ox, like Sali, and all that kind of stuff, who are supposedly better passers, and they don't open up teams either.
Well, Ox is inconsistent and has played more as a number 6 this past season. Sari is the epitome of inconsistency.
Jetson.
Well, let's be honest. Sari when he's a starter, he'll play one good game, then he'll be shit for like 4 or 5.
Jetson has the most successful dribbles in the entire league this season.
I mean, he's definitely he's a good player. There's no denying he's a good player, but I think in these games, man, like he's a part of the problem. He's not the main problem, but he's a part of it.
No, I don't agree with that.
He definitely is, man.
I think
there's a reason we've not been able to play.
How can you say that for sure? In those last 3, as long as Jetson has played for Beşiktaş, we have never had 2 decent wingers and a proper striker and a proper guy behind the striker. We have never had that. Gazal was out injured for the vast majority of his 2 years that they played together. So how can you say that? you can. I understand that that's your opinion and that you think that's the case, but how can you state it so matter-of-factly? You can't be certain.
We'll see it then next season. We'll see it next season.
That's the only way.
We'll see it next
That's
season.
the only way.
And also,
That's the only way. Yeah.
if he stays, we'll see it next season.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem as well. I mean, Rafa Silva and Jedson Fernandez, I think, two runners. It's not a great pair in midfield together.
you're
Either way,
you're echoing somebody
I
now.
think see if we swapped to a 4-3-3, and then
Either
put
way,
Rafa on the
Kartal.
wing.
But Kartal, let me just
Yeah.
highlight the words you chose though, because you said it would be worth getting rid of him if at least you could get the good 8 to replace
Yeah,
him.
of course you need
But,
to get some,
like that
know.
word, that word you chose though, worth, is important because like it implies a certain degree of value, finance, all of that. And I think you're talking about replacing Jedson with the other hole that we already have in the midfield. Now you've created another hole. And
Yeah.
it's not like, so you get a good 8 and now you need a 6. How long have we struggled to find a good 6? Frankly, you could make an argument. It's been harder for us to find a good 6.
Do we have a good
find
six?
a good like fullback?
Who's our good 6?
No.
Yeah, we haven't had
We don't
one.
have
we
one.
haven't had one since
I think
Atiba
I
retired.
think we need two. I think we need
Joseph
two
De
signings in the
Souza.
midfield.
Yeah,
Joseph De
yeah.
Souza was the closest we've had to a good 6, and he fell off in his second season, right? So like,
I think
it's
we need two signings in the midfield. I think we need a number 6 and a number 8.
Yeah, but that
and that's my point is that now you need well, if you feel like you need to replace Jedson, then I don't think it makes any sense financially because the 11 mil, right? If you could get full value for Jedson,
yeah, that's
We're
They
not
were.
going to get full value for him. Does that mean we keep him
Exactly.
forever until he retires?
maybe so.
honestly,
I don't know.
I
What,
would-
like when you really start
mean,
to game out the math.
I think you need-
it kind
yeah.
of really becomes a hard.
Cedar Adala, I think, put it the best way. If we can't get his 50% from Benfica, it makes more sense to keep him because replacing him is going to be hard and expensive. Are you going to be able to get a player as good as Jedson for the 10 or 11 million you have? And then, yes, you can bring in...
And then Khan, let's say you take 4 of those 11 to replace the 8 that we already need. So now you're even talking about significantly less than 11 million
Sinan,
to replace
no,
Jedson.
but like for example, Kartal is suggesting getting Mario Pasalic, for example. So you can use that money that you get for Jedson because ideally, one of the biggest issues with Jedson is his 50% are owned by Benfica. But if you are then going to turn around and sign a 30-year-old player with no sell-on value, then what's the difference? Then you might as well just keep Jedson for another 5 years until he's 30 plus. Because if you're going to sign a 30-year-old player
you're not going to get any sell-on
who doesn't
for that
have a
role anyway.
sell-on value, then you're not really trading up. Okay, maybe, for example, with somebody like Anguissa, a beast of a player, okay, that could make sense, But
then you're doing the math on that, and the amount of money
and
he
plus
requires,
the
like-
big issue is right now. I think first and foremost we need to make sure we got the 6, and then once you get a good 6, then you can start thinking about okay, shall we sell Jedson, and can we then use that money and bring in a really good 8 that maybe suits the team better than Jedson does? But I think if you start off with selling Jedson and you are left with 2 holes to fill, I think you're just setting yourself up for problems down the road because it's going to be even harder.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if you, like, for example, the 2 names that are being mentioned right now with Anguissa and Esposito, if you can bring in both of those players, yeah, okay, then maybe you're better off. But I think that's a big, big if. And also, these are rumors,
Exactly.
of course, And also, it's
I don't think Zambo's not happening. And
probably not, but
I mean, I think
somebody
I think
like
see if we
him.
had like a bottomless money pit, I'd say that's fine. But for us, I don't think, as we discussed last week, I don't think the money reported is worth it for us for someone of that age.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
age.
And but I think the same thing is true for Jedson. I think if you were to own 80% of his rights, for example, and you sell him for 25, 26, 27 million, and you can keep 20 or so million, that would make sense. I would be 100% on board for selling him because I think you can do a lot with 20 million. But for 10 or 11 million, I think you'll be hard pressed to replace him with a player that's at least as good as him. I think a lot of people who are on the side of, oh, he has to go, are going to probably be left disappointed with whoever we get in his replacement, because I think a lot of people underestimate how good Jetson is. I don't think he gets half the credit he deserves. Just because I think a lot of people over-focus on his passing and don't see, or maybe they see it, but they don't value enough all the things he does do really well. His dribbles, his recuperations, his runs, his work ethic. I think all of that is very, very important as well. And I think it'll be difficult to replace. And
again, we have such big holes to fill.
It is.
Yeah. Right? Like, you're just giving these guys so much homework. And it's like, sure, we really believe in them. But, like, dude, Stephen Hawking, right? Like, he only has so many hours in the day to, like, formulate theories, right? At a certain point, the quality is going to degrade if you give him too much work. Like, no matter who you're talking about, right? Like,
if we can sell...
Giving them more than they can handle.
If we can sell Musrati for 8 million, and that's the next guy we're going to talk about, I think we all agree Musrati is a sell. Can I get a here on that, guys? Musrati? Sell?
Yeah.
So if we can get 8 million for Musrati, you can probably get a good 6, because we would be making 0 profit, so none of that money would go to the bank theoretically. So that full 8 million should go into the coffers of the club. So we should theoretically be able to reinvest the full 8 million because we paid 12 for him, so there's no profit. And I believe we only have to pay on the profit of a sale to the bank. So we could then use that 8 million to bring in maybe a good 6. We can, add some money on top to bring in a good 6, but we still have to sell Musrati first. So I think if you can get Musrati sold within the next 3 weeks, and you can bring in this replacement, or you bring the replacement in beforehand, you transfer somebody preemptively already, then you can start talking about transferring Jetson, I think. But first, let's get rid of the players we actually need to offload. And I'm not 100% against selling Jetson. I think there's a scenario in which it makes sense. Right now, I don't think it makes much sense for us to sell him. But I think that could change. So, and is it worth paying, for example, like apparently I think Adales said that they offered Benfica 5 million for the remainder of his rights and they declined it, and then they upped it to, maybe Serjan Dikme or Firat said this, and then they upped it to 7 million and they declined again. You also need to keep in mind at a certain point, it stops making sense to buy out that 50%, because you paid 6 million for him already, then you pay another 7 million. That's already, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on then. Musrati was one. John Onana, I think another one we can unanimously agree. Sell. Yeah.
Out of here.
Kartal? Sell,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Milot Rashica then. Let's talk about Milot. What do you think? Stina?
So,
Sell.
Sell.
Seal. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Sell. 100%.
Get rid of him. Sell him. Semi Kilicsoy. This is an interesting one. Sell.
loan.
And then is that Kartal, is that a loan with an option to buy, or is it a loan without an option?
No, it's just a loan without an option.
A loan without an option.
Kartal, which do you prefer? You prefer the Utrecht deal or the Leeds deal?
I think the Leeds one's bullshit. I don't believe for a second they're going to pay 21 million.
And
But if they were real, which would you pick?
Oh, of course. I mean, you need to be a fucking idiot to say you take 10 million over 21.
Yeah, right. Oh
It's
yeah,
21
that had the
for
option.
Leeds.
yeah.
What if Utrecht had?
But the new rumor is that Utrecht want to loan him for a season without
the option.
an option.
Yeah.
That's the new rumor.
That's what I
actually
was
that is a
yeah,
Dutch rumor right now. That's reported by a reputable Dutch.
If that's,
journalist.
I still take the guaranteed 21 million, man. See if there's guaranteed 21 million coming in just now, I take it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you don't think he could recapture his
He can,
value?
but there's also
You don't think
the
it's
risk he
likely?
doesn't.
I think it's.
So
I think it is likely that he does well in the Netherlands, but I don't know.
I do too.
But I don't know if you then get 25 million. I think if you can get.
Is it 20 million?
I think if you can get 21 now, you take it, because it's not worth the risk of getting a couple of million more.
I mean, part of me feels like because he's still only 19, like you could even kind of fuck around with another year, like if it didn't work out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't know. That's a tough one. I guess I'd sell if I could get
They need money
guaranteed
as
like
well, so
20
I
million.
think-
Yeah, and all these holes we're talking about. Yeah, you got to sell them. Yeah.
All right, then up next is Kenny Arroyo. Cartal.
Keep.
Keep and play or bench?
For me, it's a bench.
Okay. Sinan? Bench or play or sell or loan?
I'd love it if he shows that he's good enough to play as a starter. I hope he challenges for a starting role. I would imagine he'll start out like penciled in off the bench, but I would love for him to earn that role.
It's a big risk if you go into the season with him as your undisputed star. You really need someone there that's going to be able to push him.
Cartal,
I mean, he should absolutely earn it. He has to earn it.
Cartal, how would you feel? So, like, this rumor right now, I said that Beşiktaş are negotiating with somebody he would call a world-class winger. How would you feel about we brought in a supposed world-class winger, and then we bring in Wesley from Al Nassr on loan, another rumor. So then we have two young 19 and 20-year-old high talented wingers in Kenny and in Wesley, and then you would rotate those two, and then you have the other guy as your starter, and then you have Rafa who can play there, and in an ideal world Rashica is gone, so we don't have to worry about him anymore. How would you feel about something like that? And then you still have Joao Mario, for example, on the team. That
if the stars actually someone that's very good, then I would go for that. Yeah.
For me, Kenny I would like to see him start. But that's one of those things where I think it's a kind of a double-edged sword. I would have liked to see him start already in the second half of the season over Rashica.
He should have got more minutes.
The problem with that is, as well, I think Rashica now will be easier to potentially find a suitor for because he still played. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword. I think it would have been good if Arroyo would have gotten at least more minutes, like you said, Cartal, so we would have been a little bit more certain. But maybe, we have to assume that the staff has seen enough of him in training to know whether or not he can be counted on in the coming season as a starter, or if he's still going to be somebody that is going to predominantly be coming off the bench. All right, Sinan is away for the moment, but he's already had a say on Kenny. So let's move on then to Ciro Immobile. Cartal, I think this is also a pretty unanimous easy call, but there are people who are saying we should keep him as a second striker.
I mean, sell or release, whatever we need to do to get rid of him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I like Ciro. I think I'm sad it didn't work out because I think it would have been really cool if he could have had like a nice chapter to his illustrious career at Beşiktaş. I think that would have been really cool because he's kind of like a cult player almost. But it didn't work out, unfortunately. He's on way too much of a wage. And I think Ciro Immobile is somebody that at any cost we need to move on. Whether that's by paying out the majority of his contract, I really hope not. But like, if you could pay him 3 million and he would leave, I think, if there's rumors of interested clubs, I believe Milan, previously Fiorentina, but they have now signed Edin Dzeko. But Milan are interested in getting a new striker. That much is certain. And it's also certain that they will be wanting to save the majority of their budget for other transfers. So it is possible that they might be interested in Ciro. And then there was another Italian club that is rumored to be interested, but the name eludes me right now. Sinan, how do you feel about Ciro? You switched back to the black shirt, I see, by the way. I think that looks good on you too. Honestly, that looks good as well. So it's a tough one.
I like it. I think it might be my favorite.
It's tough between this one and the striped one. I feel like which one looks best on you, because this one looks good as well. But I'm not 100% sure about. Can you put that collar up for me for a second?
You want to see it down even?
Let's see it down. Yeah, that looks decent. And
buttoned up.
Well, pull down your shirt. Pull down your undershirt. Pull it down.
The undershirt.
Let us see the chest.
What should I have for the chibuku?
That looks. Yeah, it's okay. Now put it up.
And I get the.
All right, Ciro Immobile. See now, we're almost through.
I mean, look, we need a quality backup striker, and if it's too much to ask for them to find 2 strikers, I wouldn't be devastated if we ended up having to keep him as our backup, because their financial problems are ultimately like not really my problem, and his contract would be coming to an end after then, so it is what it is. But yes, look, ideally we'll get rid of him, we'll get him off the books, we'll bring in someone slightly more reliable as a backup. Although I don't know, like as a backup,
But Sinan,
the only problem with him as a backup is the cost, right? Like,
no,
he's
no, no,
so
no, no,
crazy.
no. I don't agree because Scarthal pointed this out earlier. When he has come on as a sub, he hasn't really made an impact. I also think that I've said this last season. I think your backup striker needs to be somebody who has presence, who can be a battering ram, who can come off the bench. Last 15 minutes, you need a goal, and he offers you presence in the box so you can pump some balls into the area. And that is. Chiro is completely the opposite of that. I think Chiro is either your first striker or not. To me, he's not a good option. Maybe for Milan, if they already have a battering ram second option, and they want him as their third striker for when their first striker is injured and they want to start with him, that makes more sense. I think in that scenario, keeping Chiro would make sense. But if he's going to be your second...
Like an insurance policy.
I think Chiro is a better third striker than a second striker. As a second striker, I really think you need to have somebody like En-Nesyri, who you all know I'm not a big fan of, but I think his profile is ideally what you want as a second striker, because you want to be able to bring someone like Wout Weghorst, like En-Nesyri off the bench, somebody that's always an aerial threat. And for me, Chiro is absolutely not an option to keep under any circumstance. I think keeping him as a second option is fooling yourself, because his profile as a player does not match a good second striker, in my opinion.
I mean, I will say, if we end up having to keep him as our backup, it won't be by choice, right? It'll be...
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We're sort of forced into that position. So, yeah, no, I mean, look, let's get rid of him. Yeah. I think we all agree, ideally, that's what's happening.
Jakub Arda Kilic, loan...
do you want to comment?
right?
Do you want to reply to this, Khan? Denis
Yeah?
Jandas has said some interesting things. He said, having Jedson plus playing him as a central midfield plus Rafa as number 10 narrows down what you can build tactically and who you can buy. Ole can't get his Roy Keane with these two playing. I would sell Jedson. I would argue that getting his Roy Keane is not, well, it's not like he seems like he's flexible enough to get whatever he needs to succeed, but whatever. But then he follows this up. He says Jedson is a runner. Rafa is a runner. You want to buy a defensive 6. You want an orthodox winger who will make plays. I mean, technically, wouldn't an orthodox winger is one that is making plays? I think you could say no.
Well, I mean, why
So,
would
I don't know how that?
I don't really see why a Roy Keane type number 6 wouldn't accommodate Jetson. It's not like Jetson is always away from that zone. And it also kind of depends on how you deploy him. We've seen matches in which Jetson was played in a more conservative manner, played deeper, not given the freedom to roam. I think one of the main reasons why Jetson has been utilized as a runner as much as he has is because of the lack of wingers. And we have used him very often because we didn't have a left winger at all the entire season. We only had a right winger with Rashica and with Arroyo. On the left, we have only had inside forwards with Ernest Mucci, with Semi. So we've never really had a proper winger on the left. So what happened is that player on the left always came inside, and then Jetson dove into that space. But if you're going to have a proper left winger and a proper right winger, I think the necessity for Jetson making those runs becomes a lot smaller, and he can focus more on other tasks. So I don't agree that Jetson could not pair well with a Roy Keane type 6. Yeah, I don't.
I mean, but also I don't know that Ole is like locked into just having the one type, and I don't. I feel like the knocks on Jedson are all sort of reliant on people sort of formulating better ideals that require players that you just really have no way of guaranteeing we'd even be able to get. So, I mean, look, yeah, ideally, maybe we would be able to get these other profile players, and Jetson will become someone that is,
I definitely think
we can get rid of him. We won't feel bad about it. But
no, I definitely think that both Dennis and Kartal have a great point that in an ideal world you get a number 8 that is that has much more playmaking ability in him because Rafa is already a second striker essentially. So you want to have more of a playmaker there in that role in an ideal world next to a Roy Keane type. I think both Dennis and Kartal are right. The question becomes, are you able to bring in, first and foremost, that Roy Keane type, and then are you then able to bring in a player that is good enough, because it's going to have to be a prime Ozan Özyakup level player, I think, to outperform Jetson. Because Jetson,
I think you need that with a better engine as well for the moment.
Dennis writes, we are missing key passes, playmaking. Mm-hmm. We need either a Gazal-style wide playmaker or central 8 with good passing. Mm-hmm. Rafa and Jetson dictates that. That's my opinion. That's what we were lacking. Now, Dennis, I think we all agree we lack creativity.
I'd say to Dennis, in an ideal world, I'd want both, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I think we need to have to get more variation of play. I think you want a playmaking 8 and you want a Gazal type as well.
Yeah, because you don't want...
If it's not a Gazal type, it's someone like Quaresma that's fucking amazing.
You want somebody... Yeah. You don't want to be a one-trick pony or a two-trick pony. You want to be able to...
You want variation in your
play.
play.
Right now, for example, Rafa is a fantastic player, but it was relatively easy to defend against us this season because all they had to do was lock down Rafa. And then what they can do is they can swarm him with 2-3 players constantly on him, blocking his pockets of space, blocking his general area. But if you have a winger, if you have add to that a playmaking 8, add to that Rafa, add to that maybe another winger on the left that's dangerous, that doesn't have to necessarily be a creative player, but somebody who likes to cut inside like Ryan Babel. Then suddenly instead of one player they need to focus on, they have 2, they have 3, maybe even 4 players, and then they can't double down on everybody. Then they have to play man against man. And if you start playing man against the Quaresma, against the Rafa Silva, against those types of Ryan Babel, then you get in trouble. And that is what we need. So Dennis is right. But the question is, how much can we do in one transfer window?
I would suggest, given the financial restrictions of selling Jetson because of all the weirdness that goes into that, I think it might be easier to compensate by getting 2 wingers who have the capacity to create. And obviously, one of them you'd want to also have the ability to put the ball in the back of the net to some extent, unless you get like just such a talisman up top, like a Mario Gomez, that you can just put full creativity on both sides and go. But I mean, ideally, both of our wingers would have enough creative inspiration, right? And that's where, like, having Kenny, if you get a great creative winger on one side, maybe you play Kenny opposite him because you know Kenny he's going to attract enough.
Yeah, he can score goals.
Attention, right? Yeah. And like he can cut in, he can make a pass, he can do this. So like it at least gets attention away from the likes of a Jetson or a Rafa and creates a lane for them. So I mean, I think we can do this without having to sort of hurt ourselves financially ultimately, because I think selling Jetson with the 50% clause. I mean, look, maybe ideally we buy off that 50%.
Yeah, but
from Benfica now,
if
Benfica you're right. Running onto like next year, it's not even worth it probably.
Yeah, you need to keep in mind like next year it'll be 27, the year after it'll be 28. So like it doesn't become.
Yeah, as I said, he's probably at peak value.
Yeah, if you're gonna sell him, you're probably better off to do it now. Yeah. But you need to make sure that you bring in somebody that is at least the same quality with maybe different qualities, but the same quality level player. You know what I mean? Like, so that is the big question. I don't know if we are able to do that. So
I don't know that I'm buying that it's too late. Look, what I mean is he's still in his peak, and he's going to be there for at least another 2 years.
Well,
2 or 3 years.
Yes, but nobody.
See, this is the thing. No, seeing on seat 26, another team can buy him and sell him for a profit in 2 years' time. Yeah. But seeing 2 years' time.
Yeah.
That team that buys
when you're 28,
we almost got $9 million for Al Musrati, right? And he was how old? 29.
That's Saudi Arabia. I mean, Monaco. I don't think we're actually ever considering going to trigger that clause. Only if he was very, very good. I think.
I mean, but look, Jetson would be right. Like everything that.
The thing is, See as well, and see now we're talking about Maserati's being sold for maybe 6-7 million, right? But that's the Saudi market. That's the Saudi market, right?
But look, Al-Musrati was going to go for 9 or 10, right? Like in January. And I think in January, you look at their relative value. Jedson was worth a lot more than him then. So, I mean,
well, that's why he's getting offers for the 21 million. Sinan.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I think if he has another good season, if we buy off Benfica's thing, like let's say between now and January, he has another good season, I'd be willing to bet you'd still be getting great offers next summer.
Yeah, but you're probably as he gets older, like you might still get good offers, but like the 25 or whatever it is now, it's going to change into 21, it's going to change into 18, it's going to change into 15, like it's still good money.
But then Khan, if you put a better team around him than he had this year, and he has an even theoretically better season, yes, right? But he has more. But right, we have more success in Europe, let's say, or we do better, right? Like if we have more scouts on us, maybe.
But he'll be more interest. He'll be,
and then people start bidding off of each other.
Yeah, but he'll be 27.
There's lots of factors.
He'll be 27. He's never going to go to the Premier League because he already flopped at Tottenham. So English clubs aren't even going to look at him. So, right now, the reason that supposedly a lot of money is on the table for him is because there's Russia. But, maybe, in a year or maybe in 2 years,
maybe the
war ends or something. And, plus Russian clubs like like players for the long run. They're not like Turkish clubs. They don't like to play, they don't like to buy 30-plus-year-olds. They like their players in their early 20s and their primes. So, I think as he gets a little bit older, I think those offers are going to stop coming eventually, though.
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't know that I see the difference between 26 and 27 as being that stark. I fully agree that if he were on the verge of 30 or 28 even, that for me 28 is a marker there, right? But I don't know. At this point it's semantics. At the end of the day, I think it's 2 to 1 as far as not selling.
Well, I'm on the fence. For me, it's I think
Khan really thinks in an ideal world you sell.
Yeah. And I
think Khan's just worried about the replacement and the money.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see.
But that's what I said, Cartel. I mean, for me, it's the 50%. It's the 50% that makes it.
It's not even necessarily that kind. For me, it's more like I want to see us fill the other gaps first. I want to see us get the.
That too. That too.
If let's say
if we reduce the ifs that Cartel was talking about, and you definitely are bringing in, let's say, the free guy who's a 6. Yeah, then it becomes a whole other conversation as well. Sure. Mm-hmm. For me, there are too many ifs. If you sell him without
it's
the 6, or
they always say about Israel and Palestine, it's complicated. So I think here that actually applies. Let's move on then to João Mario, an interesting, supposedly Saudi interest in him, and also rumors that his agent has been told to find a new club. Supposedly Al Fateh wants him for 2 million. So, João Mario, what would you do with him, Sinan?
Fuck. If I say sell, people are going to be like, oh, you don't like him. I actually like him a lot. Mm-hmm. I think his performances were a lot better than what people gave him credit for. I think he could be very useful. In a way, you could pretty much bank on him giving you 3 years of really solid depth quality. And so it feels a little stupid to just turn your back on that.
He's 32 already.
Yeah, he's 32, and we have all these holes. We need money. I mean, if you can get 4 million, I mean, it's not like we have room for him as depth, maybe. So I guess I'm selling him.
Cartel, what about you?
Very hesitantly.
I know you.
I'd see if it was me personally, I'd keep him as a sub, but I think Ollie's not too keen on him. And if there's an offer there, I think you should take it.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm
I'd say sell, given the context.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's a very useful player because he can play in so many different roles. He can play as that more creative 8. He can play as a false winger that comes inside. He can, and he's a really good player. And he is, I think, one of the players that has come on off the bench and actually has had an impact, a positive impact on matches. So for me, he's a valuable squad player, but I don't know what his wages are. And I assume his wages are probably going to be north of 2.5.
I think it's not too high. It's like 1.6, 1.7.
Yeah, you said that a while back, but then I saw somewhere else that he's earning like 2.5 or something like that, or even close to 3. So it really kind of depends for me. Like if he's on 1.5 or 1.6, I think you probably keep him for rotation. Yeah. But if he's on like 2.5 or more, I think that's definitely a reason to offload him. I like him a lot, but
Same.
Yeah, But the problem as well is, if you look at what we have said now, like we have so many players so far, and we're almost done with this list, guys. And almost every single one of them, we're saying sell.
It's a sell.
At a certain point, you don't have a squad anymore, and
I know.
We can offload Chiro for buying out this contract, and we can offload this guy for cheap, and this and this and this. Like let's say Joao Mario for 2 million. Then you also need to go and bring in new players to fill out your squad. I think I think you're gonna end up.
Ideally, I would honestly keep him.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that honestly I would keep him, because I think otherwise you are going to be left having to sign way too many players.
All right. Plus, you talk about the foreigners on the bench, right? And two of them are already young and prospects by nature, by the nature of the rule. In a way, if you're going to have two foreigners on the bench, isn't he almost kind of the perfect profile in that he can play almost any position, in the front half of the team?
Yeah.
And well, right? Like he can be effective off the bench. We've even seen a number of times. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right, Con. Maybe you're right.
I agree. All right, let's move on then to Ernest Mucci. Carta, let's start with you, Ernest Mucci.
I think if the price is right, man, we should move him on. So they're saying that they're wanting 10. Personally, I don't think 10 is realistic, but see if we can get 6, 7, 8 for him, I'd sell.
Yeah. I think you need to get a good fee for him, but I also think at the same time you need to sell him. I don't see how it makes sense keeping him. I really don't.
Especially with Rafa Silva, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to take that guy's position.
And even if Rafa were to get injured or something, God forbid, injured or suspended, we would have to play a completely different game with Mucci. And I think Mucci definitely has qualities, but for the majority of the season, he's probably going to be on a wing rotation then if you keep him. And I really don't like him on the wings. I really don't like him there. For me, Mucci for me is one of the top priorities to sell together with Musrati. I think him and Musrati are two players you really, really need to sell, and you need to get at least 70 or 80% of your money back in an ideal world. And if you can do that, if you can sell Mucci for 8 and you can sell Musrati for 8, you have 16 million to spend. And if you then go and spend that on, for example, a really good striker or a really good number 8 or a really good number 6 or whatever, Anyway, then Mustafa Hekimolo. Sinan, what do we do with Mustafa?
Loan.
Yeah. Kartal?
Loan to Belgium or the Netherlands.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mustafa Hekimolo, one of those prime examples of a player we have a lot of hope for, who has talent, but who has to get those valuable minutes. And I think keeping him around is doing him a disservice. But we've talked about this so many times already, guys. Jakub Arda Kilic is another one that's on this list here. That's another one for me. That's a loan. I don't see any point to keeping him in the squad. I don't even know if he has a lot of upside, really, from what I've seen from him.
I was even going to say, he might even be one of those guys you develop for
But he's 19, so I think you need to
maybe he's young enough. You still see if he has upside. Yeah.
I think with Emre Can Terzi, you have he's good enough to be a depth player.
And he's 21. Yeah, 21 and 19, that's the difference.
And with Jakub Arda, I don't even think he's good enough to be a depth player right now. So I think you're far better off sending him off on 2-3 years alone, like Kartlakaira Yilmaz, who we should talk about as well, actually. Like Kartlakaira Yilmaz, and maybe he turns into a player that's good enough for depth, like Kartlakaira Yilmaz now, hopefully. So let's finish with Kartlakaira Yilmaz then. What do you guys do with him? You sell him because Kayserispor apparently want to buy him.
Keep.
I'd say keep for the bench. Although, how much are they going to give us?
I mean,
unless it's good money.
They would.
You know what? I say we posture as if we're going to. Whoa, I got small. I'd say let's posture like we're keeping. which would only increase the asking price. If they're really dogged in their pursuit, and they're like, we're going to give you $7 million for him, it's like, all right. Fine.
I mean, yeah, I think if you can get $7 million for Katakara, I would 100% agree and sell him. But that's one of those things. I wrote this on Twitter as well, or on X, or whatever you want to call it. Like, they want him, okay. Then you ask $7 million for him, because that is exactly what they would ask us if the roles were reversed. Like, if they think they can get him for $500K or for $1 million.
What is he? 22?
He's
22.
He's 24. He's 24.
24.
But
okay.
I think
still,
he's
Emirhan's
had
24.
2 solid seasons at Kayseri, a solid season at Umrania in the top flight, a solid season at Umrania in the Birinci League, 4 successful loan spells. He has shown that he is a hard worker. He has great mentality. Every coach that has worked with him loves him. I think he's now at an age, and for me, he's like a Fatih Aksoy. He's the type of player, he's good enough to play in the Super League, so he should be good enough to be a rotation player for us. And it saves us having to pay 2 or 3 million for the next Kerem Atakan Kezgin or the next Emrecan Uzunhan or whatever. Let's stick with our own academy then. And let's give this guy a chance.
When we said Sally's got to go, I was literally thinking because Kartal should be playing instead.
Kartal
better,
exactly.
more consistent.
Yeah.
Our own product, cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no reason.
100%. All right, Lau, that's it for the Marry, Fuck, Kill. Let's go over the comments, and I think that'll be the end.
And I'd like to say, like, this was the formal ending of all discussion of the 2024-2025 season. And so farewell,
Hopefully.
not a fond farewell to that season. No, I'm kidding. But in a way, it is a fond farewell because it was great. It was a fantastic season for the Black Eagles podcast. We all got, this community really was created this season. The whole YouTube move and everything. So in a way, it was a very magical season in every way except for the football. But yeah, so thanks to everyone for logging in all season, and stay tuned for more. Obviously, the summer is now in full effect. We're moving on.
I'm going to take off this shirt in the meantime, by the way.
Getting a little too hot?
Yeah, it's getting too warm for me. It's, I'm wearing 2 shirts as well because I don't want to, like, I always wear a shirt underneath as well.
So you don't sweat under.
I don't want to, get my sweat all over this.
Oh yeah,
and I'm wearing my 2006 style V-neck underneath. Oh, much better already. This is actually a shirt I'll be selling on my Vinted. So if anyone's interested,
that's a classic.
Exactly. This one doesn't have a name on the back, but if anyone's interested, and you're in the Netherlands or Belgium, France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, those people have access. Or if you're not on those and you're interested in buying it, let me know. Reach out to me. I'll be selling this one and some more. And I already have a ridiculous amount of shirts up for sale, including some fantastic Champions League shirts from Pepe and from Quaresma. But I am charging top dollar for those.
As you should. So, comment. So when we were talking about Necip, Onur Stecher, new commenter.
Hi, Onur.
I love that. Owner says, "Go Khan! I don't even consider Necip as a legend. We should just send him." Yeah, which we kind of said in the end. Not Carter. I don't want to bring you down with us. We're going to take the heat for that one. Carlito says, dilemma question. Would you also keep Rafa if we could sell him for 50 million and these proceeds are used for repayment of the debt? No,
I'd sell him.
You got to take 50 million.
I'd sell him 50 million. You have to take
I'd sell him for 30 as well.
Yeah, probably 30.
Yeah.
30 is probably the cutoff.
Yeah. I mean, they're supposed to.
25 is not enough, but 30, yeah.
I mean, did you guys see, by the way, like those people at Transfermarkt devalued him again? They put him down to 9 million. So from the start of the season, 15 million. Every single update, they have downgraded his value. Now, ultimately to 9 million. Like, I don't even think that's realistic because honestly, I think like if you look at him, he had just had his best 2 seasons in his career. Like, and nobody, like, okay, I know Transfermarkt.
I hate Transfermarkt.
Is super.
It's
super stupid, especially because the Turkish community leaders are like super biased. They're Trabzonspor fans and stuff like that. But even even if we don't take that into consideration, like take FOTMOB for example. FOTMOB values him at 18 million. I think that is an accurate representation of what his value is. I understand he's 32 years old. I understand that, but if somebody comes tomorrow and offers Beşiktaş 9 million euros for him, Beşiktaş is gonna tell you fuck off. If you offer him 15
literally
million, if you offer Beşiktaş
jump off a bridge,
if you
man.
offer 50 million for him, Beşiktaş is still gonna tell you to fuck off. If you offer Beşiktaş 18 million, they might start thinking. But I think you like 25, 30 million you need to get for him. Otherwise, you don't sell him.
Yeah,
He's way more valuable than that. You know, I mean.
Yeah, and because there's paper value, like in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And then you have to consider his value to the club, the hold that he'd produce, all these other things. And so that's just like a starting point. We'd be negotiating up in a case where he's like our best, unanimous best player of the season, et cetera, et cetera.
Realistically,
he got all the accolades.
If anyone would get him right now, because he still has 2 years of contract, it would have to be like a Saudi team, and they would have to pay top dollar.
Out of the ass.
They would have to pay out of their asses. Otherwise, it's impossible. I'm not saying his value on transfer market should be 30 million. That's also not realistic. But I don't think it is in any way, shape, or form justified that they have lowered his value every single update this season. I think that's ridiculous given the season he's had.
In this day and age, it's so important to denounce political violence, and yet, if someone wanted to firebomb the Transfermarkt offices, I would not
only
shed a tear.
only the Turkish one. Let's not. We're gonna get demonetized. We're not monetized yet, Sinan. But you can't say stuff like that. But let's make it clear this is a joke and an exaggeration.
Yes,
but
very sarcastic.
Don't
firebomb anything.
I think, and I've always had this opinion. I think Transfermarkt is a fantastic website for statistics. I've always thought.
Yeah.
Always found that their valuations are ridiculous and should not be taken serious. Unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of clubs and club executives take those numbers seriously to an extent that I think...
Okay, so revision, a targeted strike. Find the office of whoever is fucking
Right, no, stop it, you're gonna get us in trouble.
Sorry.
But,
yeah, you're right,
but
you're right.
This is like...
No violence.
It is like these values, they don't mean anything, really, but they still have significance because of the influence they have. So I think the people behind those numbers need to be professionals. And the people I know, for example, like Oliver Zessiger, who's been on the show a couple of times already, he is a professional scout. He now works as a sporting director at FC Biel. He covers the Swiss league. That's what he does for Transfermarkt. So he is a proper professional, and 100% I trust his judgment on that kind of stuff. But like the guys in charge of the Turkish league, I'm sorry, they had Uğurcan Çakır on 18 million. They had Altay Bayındır on 17 or 16 million. These people, I can't, how they're valuing what how much is Barış Alper Yılmaz worth according to them? Somebody look that up for me, please. 2025. Fuck off. I cannot.
Khan's choking. Fair enough. That's a lot to swallow. The transfer market. There was actually an article. I remember Turkish football or someone.
21 million.
But there was a summary of the relative values of players in the Turkish league and how they'd gone up or down based on the transfer market thing, and it was almost all down with some weird exceptions.
Oh yeah.
Even Davinson Sanchez's value went down, and he's coming off probably the best season of his career. So I don't know, man. That's a bunch of donkeys who run that show.
I think a lot of the for example, Icardi, he got put down to 9 million as well.
Which he should. He didn't play all year.
Exactly. That's normal. He's 32, didn't play all year, ACL injury, questionable how he's going to come back from that. And I understand also, okay, a player turns 32, you lower their wage, okay, you lower their value. I am not, for example, Rafa was 15 at the beginning of the season. If they would have dropped him down to 14 or to 13, I would be okay. I understand that. He's 32. They dropped him by 6 million over the course of the season. He just had the second best season in his career. And the argument of the guy that is in charge of this is but he spent his entire career in Portugal and in Turkey. Oh, fuck. Portugal is one of the best feeder leagues in the fucking world, man. Like, what the fuck are you smoking? Are you fucking high? What the?
But also, he was good enough to play elsewhere. That like it's.
Oh yeah.
It's like holding something against someone, like just because of what it represents on paper, without having any knowledge of the context, or how it played out,
the reason
why,
the reason he has never left Portugal is because Benfica were asking ridiculous money for him. They wanted 60 million or something for him. He only left after he ran out, his contract ran out. Like, clubs in England and stuff wanted him a couple of years ago, but they didn't match the asking price. Anyway, my rant on that is over. But I think I fuck that guy, man. Seriously, like, if you're watching, dude, seriously, fuck off. Put don't check it up your ass, man.
But it's also like, just be serious, be professional, try to be objective. That's your one fucking job, man. Like, you're hurting Turkish football by fucking doing this shit. Wherever you are.
Why do you look like? I think there's been 3 price updates the entire season, and every time you've lowered his value. I understand, like, for the final update of the season, you're like, okay, you know what? He's 32 now. We're gonna lower him like 15 to 14 million or whatever. I understand that, but 15 to 9, he just had a fantastic season. That doesn't make sense. Like, you're just being a prick. Anyway, let's move on then to the comments. Let's get to these comments.
Whoa. Beşiktaş. So an internal source at Anderlecht, whatever the fuck that means.
Oh, Kasper Dolberg.
Beşiktaş is pushing for Kasper Dolberg. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Interesting.
No thanks.
Internal source. That kind of freaks me out. That's not a Turkish source. I was hoping it was going to say Fnatic or something.
Nah.
Chat.
I'm not. Kasper Dolberg is one of those players. Like, he had one great season at Ajax. And then he didn't do shit for years. Then now he has had a decent season at Anderlecht and one good season at Anderlecht. Like, that is no. That if that's your marquee striker signing, then you failed. No.
How old is he?
27, I think. 27, 28. He's still relatively young, if I'm not mistaken. Feel free to look it up, though. I might be mistaken, but
yeah,
he's not a player you play big, because he
27.
Yeah, Anderlecht want a lot.
Turning 28.
Anderlecht want a lot of money for him. If you can get him for relatively cheap, like if you can get him for 6-7 million, okay. But they want like 15 million or something for him. Like, no, absolutely not.
Ew.
That would be like, I'm gonna be Cartel with Chio Immobile then.
That would be a shame.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Technically, very, very gifted player, but like, he's so spotty. His career is so spotty, man. Like, he's had like a 20+ goal season with Ajax, and then the next season he scores like 6 or so. And like, he's coming off of 2.
That's not worth it, man. That's not. We can't take a big.
No, it's too big of a risk. I understand that maybe Ole likes him a lot because he's Scandinavian and he knows him and he's been following him for a long time, and he's always been seen as somebody with a really, really high potential. Like, back in the day when he was at Ajax, like, he was seen as like the next Zlatan Ibrahimovic for a while. But like, he's 27 in the meantime. Like, no, it's too big of a risk for me, man. If he's a second striker, then but like, you're gonna be
for that price.
No, yeah, exactly. No, I would not be happy with that. Let's do the
We're
comments.
done. We're done.
Oh, we're done.
Denny's, we already did him. There's Burak Beşiktaş, which welcome another new face. Hello from Cologne, Beşiktaş fans in England. Bravo. I'm confused. Wait, is he in England or in Cologne?
Cologne.
Also, he says Cologne with
Germany.
the English.
Germany.
He must be German.
Köln.
But he did the English spelling of Köln, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that's
he's helping us out. No, it's probably being respectful. No, that's great. You're welcome to the team, Burak. Like, follow, and subscribe. Check out our Patreon. We've got lots of amazing and fun things going on over there. And yeah, man, new season.
Yeah.
New Black Eagles podcast. Here we go.
We're gonna be back next week, hopefully, with hopefully some transfer to talk about. So on Sunday there is the vote, the very pivotal vote for the upcoming Dikilitaj project, but a lot of other important stuff as well, including extending the term of leases, of renting out club-owned real estate. There's going to be a lot of important stuff being voted on Sunday. And, I don't really want to say this because I feel dirty now because Serjan Dikme and company have said it so many times. The transfers will come after the 22nd. I think I said this already before those clowns started saying it, that I expected that to be the case because of this vote, because I think this vote will shape a lot. But they are laying it on so thick right now that I'm almost feeling like, maybe it isn't gonna happen, and these people are just saying that because they've gotten instructed to say these because the other day,
it's like the carrot on the stick.
Yeah, exactly. Like just to make sure they get the yes vote. Like I feel like the other day, Serjan Dikme said, literally, Beşiktaş, if they can find the right player with the right upside and the right age and potential and blah blah blah, are ready to pay 25 to 30 million euros for a single player.
Wow.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Why?
Like, I mean, even, look, if we have the vote, they get the yes, and then let's say that because of that, they are going to start the Digital project, maybe there's money that's coming in then. Maybe there's money being paid up front. Maybe there's certain agreements in place that certain funds are going to be made available to the club. I mean, you almost have to imagine that's the case, because otherwise all this news of after the 22nd big stuff is going to happen and blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, something like that has to happen.
You could make the argument that we should not spend 20 to 25 million on a single player, given all the players we need to bring in. Right? You'd almost rather see that get spread out over at least two players. So
I think if you do something like that, it needs to be an absolute banger.
Like we just won the lottery type shit. Like we just got so much money that we have a little to burn.
It would have to. Yeah, it would have to be a player who's young enough in his prime, and where you don't have any doubts. Like for example, Kasper Dolberg. Like, I'm sorry, I have a lot of doubts there. I don't care how good he was on the last 2 seasons. He wasn't that good in the big games. He was actually not very good at all. You could argue that was down to the team not being very good in those big games, but like that is already a big concern for me. Like, where was he in the games against Brugge, against Genk, against Antwerp? Like where was against Union? Where was he in those matches? Like that's a big worry for me already. He might have 24 goals this season, but for me, that is absolutely the type of player we should stay away from, because I'm not saying that if he comes, he will be a guaranteed flop. I'm saying it's too much of a risk, and I think if you're going to spend big money, you need to be as sure as you can be in football. And there's no guarantees in football, but you need to be as close to a guarantee as possible. So it needs to be somebody like Patrick Schick or Alexander Sørloth. And Alexander Sørloth, I mean, I know some Beşiktaş fans who are really angry every time Rafa misses a chance. Those same people are going to be really angry with Alexander Sørloth, even though now they're like, oh, Sørloth, that would be the dream. But Sørloth, has some Hugo Almeida in him. If you've been keeping track of the Club World Cup, he's missed some sitters there already.
Some pretty nasty ones, too.
Yeah, like the one against Paris Saint-Germain.
What I'll say, so Dolberg started in 30... First Division A matches in Belgium. He scored 18 goals. 5 of them were penalties, so 13 goals in play.
Yeah.
It's definitely not worth the price tag you were talking about them looking for. So let's see how that goes.
No, exactly.
But
let's hope after the vote, 22nd, next week, things need to start moving, because on the 1st of July, the season officially starts. Serdar Adalı said 3 transfers before the training camp. Yeah, his mouthpiece is in the media. Well, I don't know if you can call Serjan Dikme his mouthpiece, but he's sitting at the table with his mouthpiece and he's saying, oh, well, Beşiktaş will at least sign one good player by the 1st of July. Sorry, but that is not good enough.
That's already an F. That's a fail.
That is an automatic failure. Even if you bring in Lionel Messi in his prime. One player is not enough. You can bring in a fantastic player, but if you only bring in one player, it's not like there were quotes in the media where I don't remember who was saying it, but I think it was Serjan Dikme again. the transfer will be somebody who immediately increases the quality of the squad. I'm sorry, one player, no matter how good he is, cannot drastically improve the quality of an entire squad. You need to bring in 3 or 4 guys to improve the quality of the squad.
Ken, I have to say, if you're a fan of the X-Men, you know that multiple man. You know, maybe there's someone who can play 4 positions at once. In which case, maybe that's the solution. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, if anything, Ciro Immobile should be like proof positive that you know the best you can hope for from a striker is just going to be diminished without providing them with any opportunities. And he's not the only example. I mean, Batshuayi, right? We've seen so many over the years who just, you know.
Yeah. All right,
wonder
so
what could have been.
Question for you guys. Let's make it fun. Maybe we find out in the next week. Yay Sabuncuoğlu, generally considered to be the most reliable Turkish football journalist out there. He said the other day, and Katla already talked about it earlier, but he said, I think, something along the lines of Beşiktaş are negotiating with a winger, and I would feel comfortable calling him world class. Who is the winger Beşiktaş are negotiating with? Kartal, who do you think this mystery world-class winger is?
Well, actually, Eagle Media, who no longer use Tuba Hajibayramoglu as their reporter, and so that adds credibility to this report.
It automatically adds credibility because they booted the liar.
So they've said that it's Raheem Sterling. So I don't know how you two feel about that.
Oh, dear God.
But it's who? Sterling. Oh.
Yeah, so the only way, to be honest, guys, see Sterling before he was shit. I love the guy. I thought he was a brilliant player.
Yeah.
Fantastic player. Very, very exciting to watch. But last season, he was really bad for Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that makes you think.
How old is he? 29?
He's going to turn 31 in December, so he's still 30 for just now.
Oh, no, please, no. Like, no, just no. I really hope that's not true.
I was going to say maybe
I think he's someone that's kind of fell off, man. Obviously, Raheem Sterling, his best was, I loved watching him play.
Yeah, but that's not what you're getting, so, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So just now, I'm not too keen on it at all.
And he's on the wrong side at 30. Like if he was 29 years old, I'd be all like, okay, maybe you can turn his career around. But 31 soon.
You know, the name I've been saying all summer is Liverpool winger Federico Chiesa, which
I wouldn't take him either.
Yeah, I was gonna say already. I was kind of like, I don't know. He's got this history of injuries and kind of being a bit of a prima donna.
Great player though. Great player. And then if we're stuck with Cheeto and maybe he brings more out of him,
But I think I would take him over. I was gonna sort of be negative about the Chiesa thing, but if it's him or Sterling, I think I would take Chiesa in a heartbeat. To be honest.
I would too. Yeah, I would take Chiesa
because he's only 27, right?
I prefer. I definitely prefer not either of them. But I was a big fan of his dad, and I really liked him. In 2020 when Italy won the Euros, I think Chiesa was amazing there as well. He was so good. But. Yeah, 2021. Sorry, but after
not been much since
after the injury, it has. Gattuso has said, he was the new coach of Italy, that Chiesa needs to go to a club where he can get plenty of playing time and needs to get playing again. So in that regard, I'd be open to Chiesa for the right conditions if it wasn't for silly wages and stuff like that. Sterling for me,
I'm against both. I'll put it out there. As long as I want a player that's performing just now.
Sterling.
Okay, maybe they're not performing at an elite level, at an elite team, because that'd be impossible. But I want someone that's either on an upward spiral or they've still got a steady good performance. But I don't want someone that's on the down.
But Chiesa is one of those players where you're like, okay, that's a high risk, high reward. Sterling for me.
I mean, he has a much higher chance of recapturing his form than Sterling, right?
Sterling for me is to me would show that we are we haven't changed one bit. We are still Galatasaray Fenerbahce light. We are trying to do the exact same thing they are doing, and we're still fighting fire with fire, as Katel and I talked about in our video on Friday. We need to stop trying to do it.
Yeah. We need water. We don't need fire.
Exactly, and we need to stop doing the typical Turkish thing of buying has-been stars. And you know, we need to stop doing that. We need to start investing. Especially this big money. Like, if we would take the money we gave to Chiro and if we would have invested that in a young, exciting, up-and-coming player instead, like, we would be in a different... If we would have been doing that for the last X amount of years instead of constantly wasting it on players that are past their primes and are on the wrong side of 30, then we probably would be in a better position right now than we are. We definitely wouldn't be in a worse position. So, like, a guy like Sterling, to me, is just repeating the same mistake. It would, to me, be a sign of this board has no clue. I think if you sign Raheem Sterling as Beşiktaş, if you're Fenerbahce, you can maybe afford to take the risk and see, oh, maybe we can rekindle his career. As Galatasaray, maybe you can afford that. Beşiktaş do not have that luxury.
Trabzonspor, right? Trabzon almost has to get a winning lottery ticket, right? Like, to succeed.
But,
like, I could see them doing that.
But we cannot, like that is a mistake we cannot afford to make. And the chances of Sterling succeeding are like maybe 20 or 30%. And you have like a 70% chance that he's going to end up as a dud. He's going to end up the next Oxlade-Chamberlain, somebody on a way too high contract that you're stuck offloading in 12 months and you can't because he's earning too much, and then 24 months later you still can't, and then maybe you have to buy out. And no, absolute no. If that, like, I would lose all faith, and I already don't have a lot of it right now because they haven't earned it yet, but I would lose all faith in this board's ability to do anything right if that is their idea of a big signing. Absolutely ridiculous.
In light of the talk of Chiesa or Sterling, I really feel like it's important that, you know, we've talked so long about this scouting team and letting them cook.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we do that? Can we let them cook? Can we let them do some real scouting?
They're not.
I mean, of course,
they're not doing that though, Sinan. They're not, because the fan backlash on Mahmoud Bayo has already changed that. Like, the first 3 signings we are gonna make are gonna be big names. And if
I hate the fans.
And it's not the fans. It's not the fans' fault. It's the fucking board. Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, they should be strong enough to stand up for what they believe in and carry it.
Yeah, exactly. It just
I wish people would shut up about like the Baggio stuff. You're right. The board should have a backbone and just support their fucking scout who found the player. Like,
this is the I've said this. In theory, the plan Adala outlines with the scout, with the chief scout and the sporting director role and Ole and all that kind of stuff. Like, all his plans on paper are great. The problem, and I've said this to Katel, I don't trust him to see it through because he is far too reactionary to social media. Mahmoud Bayo got shat on by the fans. And we nixed the transfer. If that is who the scouts say you have to get him. End of discussion. Yeah. Fuck the fans. You know? I mean, and
frankly, I'd feel a lot better about where we are now if we even just had the one fucking transfer to be like, okay, well, there's something for us to kind of look at. You know, some questions. At least in our first friendly, we'll all have our eyes on that guy. You know, right now there's fucking nothing. This is not cool.
I'm going to be honest, guys, and say that I'm not too sure that Baggio would have been the right move, but I'm not the one that's paid to make those decisions. That's what Edward Graf's paid to do. So if you brought in this guy to make these decisions, you need to back him.
Yeah,
and let him do his job.
Exactly. And you need to, like, it's one of those things with Ole, for example, at Manchester United. There's a long list of players he wanted to bring in at United, including Cherki, who's now gone to City, including Haaland, who is already at City. Yeah. Like, there's a long list of players that Ole wanted to bring to United when he was there, but they didn't back him because oh, those players probably weren't high profile enough or whatever. And we're doing the exact same thing right now, really.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
Mahmoud Obayo got shat on because he wasn't high profile enough, and because, you know, like people who, like, you know, the scout Otosbir Taifa didn't approve of him necessarily straight away. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, maybe they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong, but the problem is if you make a plan of this is what we're gonna do, chief scout, he's gonna make decisions, whatever, he's gonna recommend, like, then you need to go with that, and you can't just change on a whim and react to social
What kind of a
media.
message does it? What kind of a message does that send to Graf and to that team that you've theoretically empowered to do this, right? Like, oh, great, yeah, like you find all of our transfers. Like we're giving you all the keys to the car, and then they come with option number 1. The first thing they offer is like, no, actually, fuck you. We're gonna just do our own thing. Like we don't need you actually. Like what are you telling them?
The wishful thinker in me is hoping that any transfers that are made or transfers that Graf and Ollie have discussed and at the very least approved. Ideally picked by them. So maybe there's been a direct, this is wishful thinking, I'm not saying this is what's happened, but if there's been a change in strategy, I really hope this is the case.
Yeah.
There's a good chance it's not, but I really hope that the case is that Sardar Adler said to Edward Graf, look, I'm going to give you more money to spend on this project going through. So the targets we're going after now, it's in relation to this budget and not the previous one. And if that's the case, and then because of that we're going for higher profile names, then I'm very cool with that. That's brilliant. If obviously we can afford it.
But guys, but Cathal, do you believe
it's just the case of fuck that? I'm going to go back to agent recommendations and stuff like that. Then that's when we have a fucking problem. We're going to stay in the.
But Cathal,
the situation we're in just now?
Do you really think? I don't think Raheem Sterling is right. I think that's bullshit. Like I don't trust. Sorry, but like it doesn't matter if Tuba is gone or not. I still think they're a bunch of bullshitters. I don't believe it. Do you think Jai Sabunjola would call him world class at this point?
I think if I remember the quote correctly, he referred to him as a star. So he's not world class just now, but he obviously has a star name. I think he said. Let me check the phrasing.
I think he said Dunya Yildiz, but I'm not sure.
But that means a world star. I mean, maybe Sterling's definitely a star, but he's not a world class footballer anymore.
But would you even still see, like, I mean, given how his career has gone since leaving City, like he was his time at Chelsea was bad. His Arsenal now is a bit of a disappointment. He has had 2 bad seasons behind him. He's on the wrong side of 30. Like, if you have credibility as a journalist, and I think Yais does, like I think you wouldn't use those words. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe he does because he is.
I mean, I'd still say he's a star, but he's a big name. But he's no longer a world class player. He's a player on the decline, but. He's still a star in the sense that his name carries weight.
If it would be like Jadon Sancho, for example, that's different. I would be up for that.
Yeah.
But no, Sterling, no, just no. All right.
Let's hope that when we do come back, we have better news.
Chelsea weren't terrible. They're not great, but they're not terrible. But his stats for Arsenal last year were pretty shit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's not even the question of will he be good or will he be bad. I think the problem is, like, he's on the wrong side of 30. He's gonna cost a
injury prone.
I don't know. Is he injury prone? I don't know about that. But he's gonna cost a lot of money. He's gonna cost a lot of money. Like it's just. I think it's too risky. If he was a little younger, if he was 28 or 29, then I'd say, sure, go ahead. But he's already 30. He'll be 31 when? In December? He's from 1994. So, yeah, last season 10 goals, 8 assists at Chelsea in 43 games. I mean, he's long past his prime, man. Like the last couple of seasons. are a significant decline. Like his last good season was 21-22. Like that's not like that. That's repeating the Chiro mistake. That's again going for somebody.
Yeah, I don't. I personally, I think we should stay well clear.
I think it's one of those things.
Was a brilliant football player though in his prime.
Oh yeah, well, no doubt. Yeah,
watching him in the 2014 Euros, man, and thinking he was brilliant. In fact, the 2014 World Cup.
But he's also someone that relies on speed, and he's in his 30s now.
Exactly.
And for the record,
we should stay clear.
I thought he was injury prone because he missed 13 matches in that season for Chelsea with a number. He kept having these like hamstring things. So apparently that's not necessarily telling of his whole career, but I mean he did have hamstring things kind of going into that season,
but like a lot of players get to a certain point physically and then suddenly they start having those injuries. So he could have gone his entire career without like significant injuries, and then suddenly he starts getting like these nagging muscle injuries. Yeah, and that's not
and he's
abnormal.
A speed guy, right? He's a bit of a speed merchant too, so you kind of see it happening.
Plus, 6 years under Pep, that is extremely tasking on a player. So many players that play for Pep for years, they're like a lime that gets or like a lemon that gets pressed and pressed and pressed, and by the time Pep's done with them, they're like empty. The juice is completely out. They got the juice pressed out of them completely, and that happens with a lot of former Pep players. And I'm not saying that Pep's bad, but his playing style and his system is so demanding physically on players.
Yeah, that constant motion thing. Yeah, and especially for a guy whose game is already kind of reliant on his athleticism and his pace, having him running around for 90 minutes, right? Like he's gonna probably cover more ground, but be fucking exhausted at every match.
And look, if he comes and he sets the world on fire, I will gladly eat my words. But I think it would be a bad move. Even if he does come and ends up being great, I still think it would be a bad move because I think it's too much of a risk, and we can't afford.
It's not a move for resale at all.
No,
which I guess they might not all be.
We can't let's say you bring in a striker who's like Patrick Schick, like 29 years old. It's perfectly fine for us to invest and bring in the player that that has no resale. But you still want them to be long-term beneficial to the club,
and if they're definitely not going to have resale value, then you want to be very certain that they're going to give you like at least 2 epic seasons. You know what I mean? Like Rafa Silva very likely won't get us resale, but we don't give a fuck. Exactly.
And it's fine to have a couple of players like that, but you don't want like half your team. And also you don't want all your stars to be 31, 32, right?
Exactly.
We need to build, because we have this massive gap with Fener and Galatasaray right now, and our goal is to build. And you can't start building with decrepit old stones, right? You need to lay good foundations. We can sign some players who are like 28, 29, and all that kind of stuff. But we need to start. We need to now lay the foundations to win the league in 2 or 3 years' time. That needs to be our goal. Doesn't mean we can't win it this year if we get lucky. It can be an unexpected title, but we need to start building towards continued success. And we like Özcan said last season, like for example with Rafa. Rafa is kind of that transfer of you want to go for success right now. I argue, okay, Rafa is somebody you can 2-3 years, but you can't get that out of everyone. You need to start making the team younger, not older, and adding another 30-plus-year-old star to the mix. It's bad business, because by the time
especially when you can't even define him as a star, right? If there's even that question, it's kind of
and realistically, by the time that the squad will be complete in 2 or 3 transfer windows to compete. By that time, you're looking at a player. As he's 30 now, he'll be 32 maybe. I'd rather not. All right, I think we're pretty much done for this season recap and a little bit of. This was also a point I wanted to talk about: dream signings. We kind of already talked about it, but quickly, guys, is there one player that you would really, really, really like to see in Beşiktaş next season that is somewhat realistic, not completely unrealistic, but like there's maybe a possibility. Kettle, do you have a dream signing, or maybe just a profile? That's also fine. But if you can name a player, that would be fun.
I mean, Patrick Schick, I think, would have been the dream man, but I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's one that you could say is. I think it's not realistic, but at least it's someone whose name is mentioned a lot in the media.
Yeah. What about you, Sinan? Do you have a dream signing or a profile?
I can't say that I've like watched this guy a ton, but since you mentioned him, I've checked out his highlights, and I feel like this Tolu Arokadare guy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but I feel like he would be pretty freaking ideal as far as like having upside, resale ability.
Yeah, I think
giving us what we need right now.
I think he's basically what Alexander Sørloth is, but a lot younger. He's that striker.
Yeah, exactly.
That tall, strong striker. It's gonna score you goals. He's gonna probably frustrate you from time to time by missing some sitters. I mean, everyone misses sitters, right? But like Sørloth, like I know it's
like he just did.
I know in his one season at Trabzon he was pretty fucking lethal. But if you look at his entire career before and after, he's always been the type of player who really misses chances that you're like, how on earth did you manage to miss that? You know, like if you're
and Tolu feels like one of those guys where like in 3 years when we sold him and probably to a bigger side, and like I feel like he has upside where he ended up on a big club maybe someday.
Maybe
he could be one of those like legacy type of players where it's like, you have his name on the back of a Beşiktaş shirt that you're walking around the streets of New York and everyone's like, oh, that's fucking cool. I never knew he played for you guys. You know what I mean? Like he could be like a legacy purchase kind of, for the next decade or so. Yeah.
I mean,
that was my that's my thinking.
I don't know if I would if I'd call him a dream signing, but like definitely for me, that is the type of player I would like us to invest in.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, not a guarantee. Like Tolu hasn't really had that many good seasons in his career, but he's only 24, so you can't expect him to have had 5 good seasons, right?
Exactly. No, and like this would be the big jump for him.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be like I think he'd see this as his opportunity because so many players have come to Turkey and then gotten the kind of launch pad, into their career. So I think it would be pretty ideal. Yeah, and I don't really like as far as the dream signing goes. I'm not buying into that shit anymore, man. Like it's so easy to overinvest in one player and then use that as an excuse to not invest in all the other places you need to, and then kind of derail your whole shit based on like going all in on one name, And so part of me, in a way, I want to avoid that.
Yeah. By the way, to just harken back to Sterling for a second. I cannot imagine Ole would approve of that. I think Ole, with the experience he's had with Cristiano Ronaldo, and Ole has his finger on the pulse of the Premier League, I think he recognizes the fact that Sterling is on the decline. I cannot imagine that Ole would be like, yeah, let's spend the buttload of money.
Sign me up for that.
Look, if he would be cheap, then you can take that punt. But I think Sterling, if you want to bring him, that's a buttload of money. I think. Like,
definitely.
Maybe you can get him. Maybe you can get him for free, but you'd still have to pay like how much does he earn? Like probably 6-7 million net easily. So yeah.
And I feel like clubs like that, like when they're like getting rid of players, it's never free, And for them, the small figure is like close to our record signings. And like, I don't think I want to fuck around with that shit at all.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I think that'll do it for our season recap, folks. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber yet, please do hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can be notified of any future and upcoming episodes or new video releases. I think throughout the summer, we'll probably be doing more of those transfer talk videos like we did on Friday, where it's not necessarily a live show. Of course, we'll still do our live shows, but summer is also kind of a time off for us. So being able to maybe record on a free evening and then upload that video at our own leisure is maybe interesting as well. Of course, if we have movement, we will be live next week. But if there's no transfer movement, no significant things to talk about, then I think for the coming week, 10 days, you'll probably get like a video uploaded at some point. So don't forget to subscribe. We really do appreciate it. We're closing in on that 1,000 mark. If you are watching, we still need to get to our watch hour limit cutoff. So please do watch on YouTube if possible. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, I know we're on Spotify nowadays as well, and actually that we are generating income from that, so that's great. But it would be also fantastic if we could start generating a little bit of passive income on YouTube. So if you would like to help us get our view hours up, that would be much appreciated. Go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast for more content, VIP podcast, the upcoming Schwarding report on the 1st of July, where Ural Alhan, our financial expert as well, will be evaluating Settle Adala's performance this month. And of course, that will encapsulate this vote on Sunday. And hopefully that vote on Sunday will result in a positive future for the club and a good transfer window for Beşiktaş, so we can start building a squad for the future. Sinan, I'm going to hand over the microphone.
First of all, next match is in a little less. So on Thursday, which was yesterday, for anyone who's watching a little late, it was the official 3-week mark until our first Beşiktaş match, which is July 10th against St. Pölten, I think Austrian side. So we're doing our little training camp up there, and that's when our preseason friendlies begin. So stay tuned for that. That'll be fun. I'm excited just to see some football again a little. I wonder if we'll be able to see it. I hope they'll put it on the YouTube channel. They were doing that for a minute. That was a nice little practice. Beyond that, and why wouldn't I say it? Let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everybody. Ozkan, Mr. No Comment Zerzabachi. Nathan, Mr. Baseball David. Finnish, not a Swedish kebab. Tristan, Parky Cray. Michael Perry. Umer, Mr. Positive. Unal. Dara, the Irish Benhetsi. Mario, 1 and a 2 and a 3. Vargas. Neil Tariq. Sebastian, the not sporting director, Heine. Punisher, the vigilante Turk, Nasa, Mr. Manu / Beşiktaş, and of course, the indubitable, indomitable, indefatigable financier himself, the Dutch Eagle. Peace out, everybody!